Kennebec Electric and Lighting. Visit KennebeckElectric.com to learn more. And of course, as always, just because there's a guest host doesn't mean that it's not powered by the Bailey family of Dunkins, the official coffee of Legacy 1160 AM. As you're probably guessing, this is not Mike Violette. This is Keith Hansen filling in for Mike Violette on this Wednesday morning. It's good to be back behind the microphone for a morning drive show. I've been off morning drive now for approximately 18 months, actually, doing a morning drive up in central New Hampshire. So your great neighbor, the live free or die state over to your west. And it's a lot of fun. Morning drive is, I think, one of the best programs to be on. Not exactly a caller-driven show, but just in terms of what we get into, the variety of guests, and it's a great way to get your day going. So I'll be joining you today, tomorrow, and I'm thinking probably Friday as well, too. Going to bring you a variety of guests that I think that you will enjoy, following in the footsteps of Mike Violette. Today, coming up, we're going to be doing some introductory stuff, because on my media, I tend to do a lot of teaching. I do a lot of teaching from a socio-political standpoint, and there's a lot of things that I think you need to be aware of. It helps you to understand what's going on in your world right now. Things are crazy. I mean, it doesn't matter. If you're a progressive, if you're a Democrat, you think the world is going nuts. And if you're a conservative, if you're a Republican, you think the world is going nuts. So what I try to do is to bring a little bit of understanding. Let's read between the lines. Let's understand the language that's being used, and let's try to make sense of this. I took to the airwaves in 2009. I started off down in Florida, the great 98.9 FM WGUF in Naples, Florida. And I remember my very first show. I said very clearly, the whole reason why, and I don't have a background in radio. I fell into this, quite literally. But the reason that I wanted to do this, the reason why I felt this was important, was because we have to continue the dialogue. Now, I know Morning Drive is not all about doom and gloom, politics and social issues and all that stuff. We try to spice it up a little bit. We try to make it interesting. But I think, especially today, I want you to understand where I come from and what my particular view on the world happens to be. So the first hour, we're going to spend some time talking about that. We're going to talk specifically about a concept that I know you've heard about, systemic racism. And I'm going to bring an interesting perspective to this. I want you to pay attention, and I want you to think about this. Now, you may agree with it, you may disagree with it, but I want you to think about it. I want you to let this roll around inside your head. The other thing that I say on a regular basis is, please don't ever take anything that I say as 100% gospel truth. I want you to, again, reflect. I want you to think about it. And then I want you listen to talk radio. That tells me something about you. It tells me that you're hungry for information. You're hungry for knowledge. And more importantly, that you have probably, I'm going to hazard a guess here, probably some pretty well-defined critical thinking skills, something which is lacking from a significant portion of our society today. But what I've noticed in doing talk radio since 2009, the people who tune into talk radio, even the people on the left, they tend to have a little bit more of a defined analytical framework, and that's a good thing. So don't take anything that I'm saying to you as gospel truth, but what I want you to do is to use this as a foundation for your own research. It serves as a great starting point. So again, the first hour, we're going to talk about systemic racism and exactly what that means. Good friend of mine is going to be joining us at the 7:30 time slot this morning. Dave Ray, he is the communications director for a fantastic organization called Federation for American Immigration Reform. Now, this is one of the, this organization, I have been affiliated with FAIR since 2016. This organization is on the forefront of the battle for the southern border. Now, this is not, it's interesting when you look at the allegations that have been made against the Federation for American Immigration Reform. Oh, they're racist. Oh, they're xenophobic. Oh, they're, the usual isms that go along with them. Racism, xenophobia, whatever. there's just this litany of isms and names and labels that are attached. Isn't it interesting how the progressive left loves to assign labels, but yet you're not supposed to use labels? Remember that? We're not supposed to label people because labeling people is bad. We don't want to categorize society. Isn't that amazing? Think about that. The group in our society that doesn't want to categorize people categorizes everybody. Take it to the bank, folks. When you hear somebody on the left side of the aisle making an accusation, you can take it to the bank. It is a twisted, projected confession. Always has been, always will be. They are guilty 10 times over of that which they accuse their opposition of. Anyway, the isms. So Federation for American Immigration Reform, on the forefront of bringing awareness to what is happening on the southern border. I mean, we do have an issue on the northern border as well, too, but not nearly to the degree that we're seeing on the southern border. I've had on my media many, many of the sheriffs from the border counties, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, all saying the same thing. Mike and Peggy Davis, the ranchers, you've probably seen them before on a variety of different news shows and documentary television shows and documentary movies. Mike and Peggy have become personal friends over the years. Listening to their story about owning a ranch that straddles the U.S.-Mexico border, what they have seen, what Peggy has personally experienced on her property. The not tens, but hundreds of thousands of illegals that have traversed their property illegally. Now, the one thing I have to say, and I say this until I'm blue in the face, I wish I didn't have to repeat this over and over and over again. Makes me feel as though I'm on the defensive. As a conservative, as a Republican, as a patriot, as an American, I am not anti-immigration. I am not anti-immigrant. I recognize that this country was made great by the contributions of people who sought a better life in this country, who risked, in many instances, everything to come to this country, to contribute their talents, to weave themselves into the fabric of this country. Yes, to assimilate, to become Americans. But there's the right way to do it and the wrong way to do it. And what we're seeing right now is simply, it's a power shift. Make no mistake about it. Remember this. Go back to the end of George W. Bush's presidency. What was he trying to do? What were Republicans trying to do? Push through an amnesty bill. 12 or 14 million people. Remember that? Tom Homan, the former acting ICE director, is a regular on my media. And during a face-to-face conversation down in Washington, D.C. 2 years ago, I remember asking him, I said, Tom, will this ever end? And he said, no, it won't, because unfortunately, there's a trifecta of efforts. Republicans want cheap labor, no question about it. Democrats want cheap votes. And Americans, well, they want their cheap tomatoes. As long as Republicans want cheap labor and Democrats want cheap votes, and the Americans, well, they want their cheap tomatoes, there will always be a demand. Certainly for migrant workers, but certainly for those who are working illegally. It's not an issue that's going to go away, but it's an issue that either gets advanced or gets pushback from whichever party stands to lose the most or to gain the most. We're getting into systemic racism here in a second, I promise you. Dave Ray, anyway, he'll be coming up at 7:30. And then another really, really good friend who has been on my program. We have had some pretty spirited conversations. Ted Harvey. Ted Harvey is a former state senator from the great state of Colorado. He serves as the chairman of the Committee to Defeat the President. That's an anti-Biden super PAC that was originally known as the Committee to Defend the President. That was originally started out as one of the largest pro-Trump super PACs in the country, changing its name after the 2020 election. The last time that I had Ted on, we had, and he's a good friend, and even the fireworks are in good spirit. There's no animosity there. But it's always an interesting conversation. Ted was one of the people who said, yeah, listen, Biden, that's it. He's in. And it seemed as though Ted was turning his back on Trump. And I called him out on that. And it led to a spirited conversation. So this will be the first conversation that I've had with Ted since that conversation took place back in, it was about a week before the inauguration. So going back to the middle of January. He'll be coming up at 8:30 this morning. You're not going to want to miss that. All right. So this concept, of systemic racism. Whenever you're listening to the messages that are being spread by especially the left, it's really important to understand terminology. Terminology is something that we take for granted. We listen to conversations, we listen to speeches, we listen to lectures, we listen to monologues, and there's terminology that is used. And that terminology, it has a purpose. And terminology can be manipulated. Words have meanings. And in many instances, certain terms, certain words that are being used are being used with the very specific intent of either making a message to the average person more understandable, or in some instances, more palatable. And one of the terms that we see is systemic racism. Just to give you an example here, tolerance versus acceptance. I hear this a lot. Oh, you're not a tolerant person. As a conservative, you're not a tolerant person. I'm a very tolerant person. But there's a lot of things that I won't accept. And this is why it's important to understand that words have meanings, and there's different meanings. Mean what you say and say what you mean. But don't just intersperse different terms and interchange different terms for the purposes of either A, you don't know what it means, or B, trying to engage in some form of verbal manipulation. I'll give you a perfect example. I'm on a plane. I'm on a red-eye flight from Los Angeles going to Tampa. 2 o'clock in the morning. There are 3 children sitting in the row behind me, along with mom. Not my kids, their mom. And the kids are taking turns screaming in shifts. It was the longest flight I've ever taken. 5 hours of screaming 2-year-olds. One would scream, the other 2 would sleep. When that one would cry itself to sleep, then eventually, oh, geez, we got a commercial break coming up here. I'll get back into acceptance versus tolerance here in just a minute.
Opportunity for upward mobility.
Moody's definitely helped me through. They sent me to school. I got my degree in business.
I had the demeanor and I had the willpower and the want.
Our trade is constantly changing, and there's always new challenges that arise.
I definitely feel like an owner. It's very exciting.
When you like what you do, you like your job, you like the people you work with, what else could you ask for?
Bring your skills to Moody's and build a long-term future.
Spring is the time for renewal for both you and your home. So brighten your day and your surroundings with great items from Townline Antiques. Do you love classic decor? You'll find furniture, artwork, glassware, signs, and hundreds more pieces around every corner. Their classic colors and styles will have you thinking spring and feeling invigorated every time you see them. Or maybe you enjoy collecting books, comics, coins, sports memorabilia, watches, or classic electronics. Townline Antiques has rare items that you won't find anywhere else. Townline is also showcasing a new display of art glass that's absolutely dazzling. Each piece is one of a kind, with its own unique flair of colors and form. You simply have to see them to appreciate their beauty. And for everyone who loves to bring items back to life, they're now carrying high-quality fusion mineral paints that give you beautiful color and a durable, long-lasting finish. Townline Antiques, open Tuesday through Sunday from 10 to 5. Route 201, right on the Winslow-Vassaboro Town.
Mike Violette here, and if you know me, you know I love my coffee, you know I love my ice cream. I also love my Wendy's, and right now Wendy's is taking care of me and, more importantly, you on both counts, because at Wendy's now, you can get a small signature cold brew iced coffee or a Frosty-Chino with real Frosty creamer for just $1 for a limited time. The Wendy's cold brew iced coffee, it's slow steeped to be extra rich and super smooth, then served over ice to be extra refreshing and invigorating. Frosty-Chino at 8 a.m.? You bet, only $1. Pair the cold brew iced coffee or the Frosty-Chino with a breakfast Baconator. You've got the perfect morning. The Wendy's Frosty-Chino is the signature cold brew coffee swirled with Wendy's legendary vanilla or my favorite chocolate frosty creamer and served over ice. It's cool, it's creamy, it's delicious, and it comes in 2 sizes, small and large. You can get a small Wendy's Frosty-Chino or small cold brew coffee for just $1 all day long. Choose wisely, choose Wendy's. Limited time only. Price and participation may.
Legacy 1160 WSKW.
All right, that's the cheesy way of starting off the next segment here. Welcome back to the Mike Violette Show on Legacy 1160 AM WSKW, brought to you by Kennebec Electric and Lighting. You can visit KennebeckElectric.com to learn much, much more. 43 degrees currently, and I got some partly cloudy skies over there in Waterville. 43 cloudy in Skowhegan, 42 degrees cloudy in Mercer. CBS 13 meteorologist Alexi O'Connor got her detailed forecast coming up here in just a couple of minutes. Looks like got a pretty decent day on the way today. Light rain transitioning to a few showers in the afternoon today. Look for highs in the 60s, lower 60s today. Tonight, overnight lows, 41 degrees, clouds giving way to mainly clear skies. And then it looks like some pretty nice skies on deck for tomorrow. Highs of 67 degrees, intervals of clouds and sunshine. If you have the day off tomorrow, might not be a bad idea to get out and get to the beach. I have to be honest, I am in New Hampshire, but I love Maine beaches. If I had my choice between, I grew up on Cape Cod. I don't like to admit that I'm what they call a masshole, but yeah, I don't admit that all that often. If I had my choice between believe it or not, Cape Cod and Maine beaches, it's Maine all the way across. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Especially Kennebunk. Kennebunk is fantastic, and Gunkwit and Perkins Cove, love it down there. As a matter of fact, oftentimes I'm doing beach runs. As a matter of fact, I'm listening to Mike talk about in this Wendy's commercial about all these mochachinos and chocolate. I'm like, yeah, I gave that stuff up years ago for a much healthier lifestyle. So you'll oftentimes find me literally running on the beach. It's great. Go to a nice hard packed beach and get in about a good 5 to 7 mile run out there. So it's going to be a nice day for that tomorrow with temperatures in the mid to upper 60s and partly sunny skies as well too. So it sounds like a good beach run day. All right, getting back into this concept of systemic racism, and just giving you the anecdote here of the plane ride from hell, the red-eye flight from hell. And, there were a lot of people who were trying to get some shut-eye on this flight. Again, it was a red-eye flight. We left L.A. at midnight. A lot of people trying to get some sleep here, but they were not able to do so because these 3 screaming memes in the middle of the plane that just kept everybody up. There wasn't a single person that approached the mother or said anything. They were all just grinning through clenched teeth, but they were grinning and they were bearing it. So they were tolerating it, but they weren't accepting it. There wasn't a single person on that plane who was like, yep, I'm perfectly good with this. I'm perfectly okay with this. No, there wasn't a single person, I would say, that was listening to this that would accept it, but they tolerated it. So there is a difference. When somebody says, think about this. If somebody says, well, you're a very intolerant person, do I interfere? No, I don't interfere. I tend not to be that kind of person. You do you. And I think that really summarizes what a lot of my socio-political leanings happen to be. We live in the greatest country on earth. You can do what you want to do. But I also, as a free person, I want to be free from you if that's my choice. We'll actually have a conversation about that tomorrow. We'll talk tomorrow, the opening segment. We'll talk about the differences between freedom and liberty. This always makes for a very interesting conversation. But getting into systemic racism, remember that certain terminology is used with a very specific intent of making that message more understandable or more palatable to the average person. And you hear this term all the time, systemic racism. Woke corporate culture, woke Fortune 500 companies, and even local businesses. Doesn't have to be a Fortune 500 company. They're all getting behind this end systemic racism. And you hear people just parrot, oh, systemic racism, systemic racism, systemic racism. But does anybody really understand what systemic racism really is? I don't think so. When you look at the number of people and the number of organizations and entities that are getting behind the elimination of systemic racism, we can put that in air fingers quotes. This seems like something that if somebody approached you and said, hey, are you for eliminating systemic racism? Well, yeah, I don't, as an intelligent and critically thinking person, I don't like the idea of racism existing in my society. I certainly don't like the idea of racism existing within the very institutions of our society. So who couldn't get behind this? More to the point, everybody should get behind this. Yes, we should all hold hands and collectively, isn't that a beautiful word? that invokes some sentiment right there, collectivism. But collectively, we should all get behind this push to eliminate systemic racism. Well, the problem is that term is being used for very, very specific purposes. And many very well-intentioned people and the well-intentioned individuals who run very public entities are falling prey to that term because they lack the understanding of what is really behind that term. You ready for the revelation? We do have a news, sports, and weather break coming up here in less than 2 minutes. So I'm going to give it to you right now, and then we're going to break it down even further. Systemic racism is capitalism. Systemic racism is the private ownership of wealth. Systemic racism is the private ownership of tangible property. Systemic racism is the free market system. Hallmarks of Western civilization, certainly, and very, very specifically, these are, for lack of a better term, cornerstones not only of America and the American way of life, but Western civilization and Western culture. Systemic racism is capitalism. We're going to spend the remainder of the 6 o'clock hour talking about this after the news, sports, and weather break. But there is a war going on right now to end systemic racism. And you'll always find it very conveniently wrapped up in a marketable news story. Most recently, we've seen this in the death of George Floyd. Make no mistake about it, kids. This is a contrived war. The war against the police, the defund the police, disband the police movement, has nothing to do with allegations of white police officers murdering black and brown people in record number. The numbers just don't substantiate it. It doesn't support it. It is all about the elimination of capitalism. 6:29 on Legacy 1160 AM WSKW, the Mike Violette Show. Keith Hansen filling in. News, sports, and weather coming up right now.
ABC News and Lionel Moise. Officials urging drivers not to hoard gasoline. This as a growing number of gas stations across the Southeast are running dry after a surge in panic buying spurred by the cyber attack on a major fuel pipeline. ABC's Andrew Dimberg.
Gas stations in at least 7 states are reporting shortages from Florida to Virginia, and supply issues appear to be creeping north. According to Bloomberg, distributors say they're now getting gas on a ration basis in Linden, New Jersey, where the 5,500-mile critical pipeline ends. A cyber attack 5 days ago forced its operator, Colonial Pipeline, to shut down the pipeline, causing shortages and sending prices climbing.
The Colonial Pipeline is expected to restart most of its operations by the end of the week. President Biden will meet with congressional leadership at the White House today to discuss his trillion-dollar infrastructure plan. McConnell, McCarthy, Pelosi, and Schumer will attend. Republican Congressional Conference Chair Liz Cheney could be voted out of her position today. This is ABC News.
This is your HelloFresh mini break. There will be no grocery store crowds today or figuring out what's in the fridge. You already chose from over 25 chef-created recipes this week. There will be a HelloFresh box on your doorstep filled with fresh, pre-portioned ingredients that, in as little as 20 minutes, will become restaurant-quality meals. And giving yourself a break is back on the table.
Go to HelloFresh.com/Sky12 and use code Sky12 to get 12 free meals, including free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/Sky12, code Sky12.
Jay Farner here, CEO of Rocket Mortgage and Rocket Companies. Last year, we saw historically low mortgage interest rates. What you may not know is that interest rates are already starting to increase, and it's likely that trend is only going to continue. Our team of experts is standing by to help you save before rates go up. Don't look back and wish that you had taken action. Call 833-8ROCKET or visit rocketmortgage.com.
Rocket. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender licensed in all 50 states and MLSConsumerAccess.org.
I'm CBS 13's Jeff Peterson on Legacy 1160 WSKW. A trucker from Auburn is accused of trying to lure a 15-year-old boy for sex. Police say 45-year-old Sean Arnold thought he was talking to a teen about meeting up in Connecticut, but it was actually an activist group posting as a teen online. According to investigators, the group confronted Arnold at a truck stop and waited for officers to arrive. He's now facing several charges, including sexual assault. Presidents of Bates, Bowdoin, and Colby colleges write a joint letter to the Maine legislature expressing support for transgender student athletes. The letter says in part, quote, "We should not exclude transgender girls from these important experiences, force them to choose between being themselves and participating in sports." First grade students at Oakland are growing their home libraries thanks to one student teacher from Thomas College. Alisa Paquette, an education student, says some kids have less access to books during the pandemic and aren't reading at the level where they should be. So the student teacher took matters into her own hands and raised money to buy 10 books for every first grade student at Atwood Primary School. The home library project will continue next year, and 10 more books will be provided to each first grader at the school. Red Sox lose to the A's 3-2. Same two teams tonight at 7:10. In hockey, the Bruins fall to the Capitals 2-1, and the Celtics lose to the Heat. Final score 129-121. I'm CBS 13's Jeff Peterson with a news update on Legacy 1160 WSKW.
A rare happening. Red Sox, Bruins, Celtics all lose. Red Sox lost 3-2 to Oakland. A's scored twice off reliever Darwin's and Hernandez in the 7th inning, wasting a strong performance from starting pitcher Nathan Eovaldi.
Splitters were good. I mixed my off speed enough to keep them off balance. I think before I was kind of getting him a little bit of predictable counts, and I think that's why my outings weren't as great in the two prior. But tonight I felt like I mixed my pitches really well, and again, the fastball felt really good coming out.
Nathan Eovaldi, Rafael Devers a home run. It was Miami 129, Celtics 121. Celtics heading for the NBA play-in series. Brad Stevens.
And obviously, we still have a week left before the play-ins start. Time is running out. We've got to play better and find the best version of ourselves over the next week and get ready for likely next Tuesday.
Celtic coach Brad Stevens. And in the final game of the regular season, a very good game, by the way, Capitals 2, Bruins 1. Follow me on Twitter at Tom Cuddy.
I'm CBS 13 meteorologist Lexi O'Connor. Partly to mostly sunny this morning with a slight chance for a shower. We'll see more clouds developing this afternoon and evening with scattered showers, highs in the low 60s. Partly to mostly sunny for tomorrow and Friday. Mid to upper 60s, near 70 degrees inland on Friday. Staying warm and partly sunny with the chance for showers this weekend.
On a Legacy 1160 AM WSKW, the Mike Violette Show. I'm Keith Hansen filling in for Mike Violette. The show this morning brought to you by Kennebec Electric and Lighting. Visit KennebecElectric.com to learn more. And it is powered. Just because I'm a guest host doesn't mean I'm not powered by coffee as well, too. The Mike Violette Show powered by the Bailey family of Dunkin's, the official coffee of Legacy 1160 AM WSKW. Pablo Cruz, what you gonna do? One of the things I love about Morning Drive is the ability to play bump music from pretty much every single genre that's out there. I am a huge music buff. And if you're like me, somebody looks at your playlist, Pandora or Spotify, or even just your presets on your car radio, and they look at you and you've got musical schizophrenia. Yeah, I kind of do. Because everything, literally from, I love yacht rock. And I'm also a child of the 80s as well, too. So I really, really like 80s music. I love yacht rock. I love classic rock. I love punk. Punk is just phenomenal from the late 70s, early 80s, jazz and blues and everything else. There just isn't a genre of music that I don't enjoy. And I think, life is too big and it's just too expansive to limit yourself to one musical genre. Pablo Cruz, again, just one of those fantastic yacht rock bands. So over the next couple of days, I'll be sharing with you some of my favorites from my particular playlist. All right, let's see. What do we got here? 6:36 currently, and let's just take a really, really quick look at the weather. It's going to be a really, really nice day. Not so much today, but tomorrow. Today, we're looking for highs of around 62 degrees. Light rain in the morning, transitioning to some showers in the afternoon. Look for overnight lows in the lower 40s. Clouds giving way to mainly clear skies for your overnight. And then tomorrow, that's where we're going to see a few rays of sunshine. Intervals of clouds and sunshine highs. Look for right around the mid to upper 60s tomorrow. So it should be a much, much better beach day. 42 degrees currently cloudy in Smithfield. 43 degree in Norwich Walk. and 43 degrees under cloudy skies in Pittsfield. Getting back into the systemic racism. Now, before the break, I told you exactly what this is about. It is about capitalism. It's about, or more appropriately, the elimination of capitalism, the private ownership of wealth, the private ownership of tangible property, the free market system. Everything that makes Western civilization what it is, which, by the way, was one of the reasons that immigrants poured into this country. Think about it. People came to this country because they believed in capitalism. They believed in the American way of life. They could come here with nothing, they could start a business, and they could become and live that American dream. This woke culture that we see today it's got to be exhausting. That's all I can say. It's just got to be exhausting because you have to spend your entire life pissed off about everything. Everything. Everything is wrong. Everything is broken. Everything is evil. Everything is immoral. Everything except you. And when you actually take a look at the people who spend their entire lives in these woke rages, what you find is that often the most morally bankrupt element of the argument is that person. Again, twisted, projected confessions. But systemic racism and the war against police. Remember, we have to disband and defund the police because we have to eliminate systemic racism from the institution of law enforcement. I called it a contrived war earlier, and I will double and triple down on that. I will never back down from the argument that it is a contrived war. It has nothing to do with the death of George Floyd. It has nothing to do with any specific individual. It's a convenience. Yes, I just called George Floyd's death a convenience. Not to me, not to anybody else, but to the individuals who are perpetrating this narrative. It's a convenience. It is a specific point in time to either kick off or reinvigorate a certain movement. Think about what happened with Rodney King. Think about what happened with Michael Brown. Remember Trayvon Martin? Remember that case? Freddie Gray. Remember that case? And now, Floyd. It gave a face to a movement. But more importantly, it gave a perception of legitimacy to the movement. And we look back over the past 20 or 30 years, these kickoffs have occurred. They've flared up, and then they've rapidly fizzled out. Think about the environment. Think about the climate, the socio-political climate, especially in black communities. After King, after Brown, after Martin, after Gray, after Floyd. And these aren't the only ones. There are others out there. But each one, and we'll get into this here in a second, but each one is very carefully selected for its marketability. But more importantly, every single one of these, it was capitalized upon. You have to remember that when the progressive left looks at a case, there's two factors. You do a cost-benefit analysis in your life, even though if you don't even realize you're doing it. You do a cost-benefit analysis. Well, they do a cost-benefit analysis as well, too. Because they want to see how marketable that case is. Can I pull money out of the case? And can I pull votes and power out of the case? Can I advance my agenda using this case? And I mean using in the purest, most elemental sense of that word, using. Each one of those cases, just like a fire, it had its ignition point. And then it grew, the incipient stage. It progressed to that growth stage. And then it eventually reached that point of full development as much as it possibly could within that given time frame. And then, just like any other fire, it begins its decay phase. It dies out. It lives on only in the annals of history. But every single time one of these situations kicked off, more and more people got involved. More and more cities got involved. Larger and larger crowds were involved. And now we find ourselves where we are today. One unfortunate incident, and literally cities across the country, not even cities, small towns, find themselves dealing with big city problems. The George Floyd case, the most recent one, it's not the first one. And you can bet your bottom dollar that it won't be the last one. But irrespective of any of the legitimacy of the claims, I mean, when you look at Floyd, I mean, this guy had 4 times more fentanyl in his system than what is necessary to kill somebody. The bottom line is, I believe, whether Derek Chauvin and the other Minneapolis police officers were involved or not, Floyd would have wound up in a body bag. And as a former police officer, I can tell you, one of the things that people have to be concerned about, police officers have to be concerned about, is a concept called arrest-related death. Some people, because of whatever toxins they have in their system, whatever hyper-excited delirium they may be experiencing, some people, when they are introduced into the system, they die. It happens. It's not a desired outcome. Nobody wants to deal with it, but it happens. And there were a multitude of expert witnesses who came forth and said that Chauvin did not contribute. The pharmacological buffet that was floating through that guy's system is ultimately what did him in. Fentanyl, by the way, kids, if you're not familiar with it, it arrests vital systems. It stops, it shuts down, it suppresses, especially your respiratory system. No wonder you can't breathe. You've got 4 times a lethal dose of a drug in your body that necessarily suppresses your ability to breathe. Oh, but that's of no consequence. What's of consequence is the fact that we have a case that can now be used to further our demands of eliminating capitalism. Again, why? Well, it's very simple. Because police, ladies and gentlemen, they protect private property rights. Think about that. And this is what is most overlooked by the casual observer. It's never taken into consideration. It's the concept and the context, more appropriately, the overall narrative of the role of what police are and what they do. Law enforcement. In law enforcement, we call that a clue. I'm giving you the answer. I'm telling you exactly what police do. They enforce laws. And what do those laws do largely? They protect private property rights. They protect wealth. This is my home. This is my property. This is my money. This is what I have a right to. You have no right to avail yourself of this. If you try, that's a criminal offense. Who will hold you accountable? The police. They enforce laws that protect wealth. They enforce laws that protect property. They enforce laws that protect the rights of people who have interest in both wealth and property. And more appropriately and importantly, police officers, the institution of law enforcement, holds accountable and penalizes the people who try to avail themselves of either somebody else's wealth or somebody else's property when they have no legal or valid interest in it, or any legal or valid claim to it. You have people out there who fancy themselves as communist revolutionaries. And there's 2 different kinds of communist revolutionaries. There's the useful idiot that's out there in the street that's burning and rioting and raping and robbing and looting and shooting and blockading traffic and all that, and they have no concept of what it is they're actually doing. I would submit to you that the vast majority of people who are out there engaging in this behavior, they're doing so because it's simply an opportunity to engage in antisocial behavior with immunity and impunity. If you were to go out and actually ask the average person who's participating in these riots, what is this movement all about? I would suspect, I'd bet you a crisp new $100 bill, out of 10 people, you wouldn't be able to find 2 people who would actually be able to tell you anything about this beyond, well, we're fighting systemic racism. Yeah, but what is systemic racism? Well, white cops killing black and brown people in record numbers. No, it's not what it's about. Go back to the 60s. Do you remember Bernadine Dorn? You remember Bill Ayers? the guy who ghost wrote one of Obama's books, one of the most frequent visitors to the White House, the communist revolutionary, the violent communist revolutionary who was responsible for spearheading an organization that killed people in the name of what? Radical Marxist, radical communist takeover of this country, the Weather Underground. What's fascinating about the Weather Underground, and these guys were wanted. They were wanted by the FBI. They were terrorists. Well, now they're professors. There's a surprise. That's a fascinating conversation too, by the way, at some point. If we have the opportunity, I'd love to get into that. You want to know why your universities are the way they are? I've got the answer for you. It's very well researched. But the Weather Underground, they were a group of radical Marxist, radical communist revolutionaries. And the Weather Underground did what the Weather Underground did, which was bomb buildings. They murdered people. They called for the radical overthrow, the physical, via force, overthrow of the federal government and the capitalist free market system. It wasn't palatable to the average person. The average person could not get behind what the Weather Underground was proposing. Well, from the 60s, the 1960s, to now the 2000 teens and the 2020s, the radical Marxist revolutionaries have had an opportunity to work on their marketing. They've had an opportunity to work on their PR, and they have found a way to take the very concepts that were being espoused by and advocated by the Weather Underground. It's the exact same concept that is embedded in this concept of systemic racism. The only difference is now it's more palatable because the terminology has changed. We're not talking about radical Marxism. We're not talking about the overthrow of capitalism. We're talking about systemic racism. Oh, I can get behind that. Can you really? We're going to take a very, very quick break here. When we come back, we're going to talk more about what the concept of systemic racism stems from. Specifically, the perception of the lack of equality that exists in a capitalist free market system and in a capitalist free market society. This is one of the reasons that they hate this. And again, it's one of the primary reasons why they would like to get rid of, absolutely get rid of, purge, expunge the individuals who are responsible for protecting those private property rights. 45 degrees currently under mostly cloudy skies in Waterville, 44 cloudy in Fairfield, and 44 degrees under cloudy skies in Norridge Walk. Got news, sports, and weather coming up right now. Much more of the program right after this.
Moody's is we have a lot of opportunity for upward mobility.
Moody's definitely helped me through. They sent me to school. I got my degree in business.
I had the demeanor and I had the willpower and the want.
Our trade is constantly changing, and there's always new challenges that arise.
I definitely feel like an owner. It's very exciting.
When you like what you do, you like your job, you like the people you work with, what else could you ask for?
Bring your skills to Moody's and build a long-term future.
Hi, I'm Greg from Gregory's Disposal. Dumpsters, dumpsters, dumpsters. Call Gregory's Disposal, 465-4500. We can help. Cleaning out grandma's attic, or if the kids finally moved out, leaving the junk behind, we have debris dumpsters and many sizes of roll-offs to get the job done quickly and efficiently. Call Gregory's. Call Gregory's, 465-4500. How about remodeling, redoing the roof, tearing off the old porch? Gregory's will bring the right size dumpster at the right cost. Our dumpsters are brown, and we keep our prices down. Call Gregory's. Call Gregory's, 465-4500. Gregory's can also help with your weekly rubbish. We offer many services, including curbside pickup, residential dumpsters, whatever you need. Gregory's is there to help. Call Gregory's, 465-4500. In case you missed it, call Gregory's Disposal, 465-4500.
Legacy 1160, WSKW.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes we just got to slow it down a little bit. Get into the smooth jazz. Welcome back to the Mike Violette Show. I'm Keith Hansen filling in for Mike Violette. You are listening to Legacy 1160 AM WSKW. I lied. I'm sorry. I said there was news, sports, and weather. It wasn't. It was just our pre-commercial break. News, sports, and weather will be coming up here in just about 7.5 minutes. So right now, 44 degrees in Smithfield, 44 degrees in Fairfield, 44 degrees under cloudy skies in Skowhegan. Not a bad day on deck today. Look for highs today in the 60s, lower 60s today. Sun and clouds mixed. We're getting the updated weather forecast now coming in from the National Weather Service. Mixture of sun and clouds, slight chance of a rain shower. Tonight, look for overnight lows in the lower 40s, partly cloudy skies, and then tomorrow, sunny along with a few clouds. Now, so it looks like it's going to be a much clearer day tomorrow, with temperatures in the mid to upper 60s. CBS 13 meteorologist Lexi O'Connor will have your detailed weather forecast coming up in just a couple of minutes. All right, getting back into the systemic racism concept here. The lack of equality that exists in the capitalist free market system. You see, in this country, one of the things that we look forward to is the equality of opportunity, but we cannot guarantee the equality of outcome. That's something that it's been discussed on many occasions. The equality of outcome. If I give 10 people $1,000, the results of that, I'll tell you right now. You give me an extra $1,000, I'll tell you exactly where I'm putting it. I'm putting it in cryptocurrency, kids. Put it in cryptocurrency. I'll take that $1,000 and I'll turn that into $10,000 in a very short period of time. Other people, they're going to go buy, well, a perfect example. Look at the stimulus, Air Fingers quote stimulus payments, $1,400 stimulus payments. I know up in central New Hampshire, you go into the Walmart, you couldn't find a big screen TV. Why? Because people were pissing away their Air Fingers quote stimulus checks on crap they didn't need. And depending on where you happen to be, you know, it may be they're buying food. Maybe they're paying off a month's worth of a mortgage or a month's worth of rent. Maybe they're putting 50% down towards their monthly Obamacare payment. Or they're pissing it away on cigarettes, booze, lottery tickets, and tattoos. That's why I'm not a fan of free money. But the point being is that you take 10 people, each of whom get $1,000, or in this case, $1,400. You're not going to have equality of outcome. Some people are smart. Some people invested it. Other people bought guns. Some people bought ammo. I know one guy, he managed to find, I don't know how he did this, $1,400 worth of ammunition. Great, God bless him. $1,400 worth of ammo. That's probably going to give him a rate of return similar to what some of the cryptocurrencies are. Got to be honest with you. But to the people that see themselves as communist revolutionaries, it doesn't matter what opportunities are afforded to any individuals, regardless of skin color or nationality. What matters is the equality of the outcome. And that's the one metric that can never, ever be forecasted or guaranteed. Crime, drugs, lack of motivation, lack of education, poor personal decision-making, these are all inhibitors to success. And these are inhibitors that, this is going to piss some people off. I don't care. I'm not here to stroke your feelings, kids. Some of those inhibitors are abundant in impoverished communities. Black, white, Hispanic, Pacific, Islander, Asian, doesn't matter. Poverty is not the cause of people's problems. Poverty is the effect. You hear people say, well, I'm unable to enjoy the American dream because I'm poor. That's an illegitimate excuse. It has nothing to do with it. Poor people can get rich all the time. They do it all the time. A person who is impoverished could say, well, I'm unable to enjoy the American dream because I'm poor. No, why are you poor? Well, because I have a criminal record. Oh, well, that's your fault. Well, I'm poor because I can't get a good job because I spent all my money on drugs. Oh, well, that's not my fault. That's your fault. I'm just, I mean, they would never admit this, but I'm just a lazy person. I don't want to get up off of my ass and go out and do anything. Well, that's a choice. That's a motivational issue. It has nothing to do with the system. It has everything to do with you. Well, I'm poor because I grew complacent sitting on my butt and accepting welfare. Again, it's a choice. I don't have a proper foundational education. That's a choice. But rather than attempting to identify the cause of poverty and establish a basic expectation that people accept responsibility for their personal choices and thus accept the outcome of those choices, they're falling prey. I'm not going to use the word victim because they're not victims. They're preyed upon by unscrupulous politicians on both sides of the political spectrum who use these impoverished people for personal gain and political gain. I mean, I will say, in all fairness and honesty, both sides of the political spectrum, there are Republicans that do this too. It's far more widespread and extremely pervasive. It metastasizes easily within Democrat circles. But it's straight, literally, it is straight out of the Communist Manifesto. Marx and Engels, the victim-oppressor dichotomy. It wasn't victim-oppressor in Marx and Engels. It was the haves versus the have-nots. The proletariat class, workers of the world unite, versus the bourgeois class, the class that owned the wealth and, more importantly, owned the systems to produce additional wealth. But just like Marx and Engels, they broke society down into that victim-oppressor dichotomy. The haves, they're the oppressors because they keep the have-nots down. Unfortunately, the Marx and Engels argument doesn't work very well in a free market system. But what happens now is that unscrupulous politicians propagate the narrative that no matter who you are, somehow, some way, you're a victim. And generally, you're a victim of some type of evil or wrongdoing or malice that was perpetrated by white, middle-aged Christian males. When you label a person a victim, it necessarily requires the identification of an oppressor. And the identification of that oppressor, it gives that unscrupulous politician a direction to focus the identified victim's attention onto. It gives them a scapegoat. It tells them who to blame. And then the politician solicits money from the victim, eventually demanding that the victim vote for the politician on the promise that once in power, well, I'll get you the justice you deserve. Sounds kind of like those ambulance-chasing scumbag attorneys that you see advertising on daytime television. Now, did somebody do you wrong? Did somebody hurt your feelings? Did somebody rear-end you? Did you slip and fall on somebody's sidewalk? Well, just hire the law offices of Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe, and we'll get you the money you deserve. You're the victim. They're the bad guy. You need us to bring you justice. Huh. That narrative kind of plugs right into what we're seeing in politics today. Well, make no mistake about it. The overall goal of the defund and disband the police movement is to eliminate that which prevents the communist revolutionary from taking, by force if necessary, that which they determined has been obtained by illegal or immoral means. It is all about removing the protections that you have that protect your private property rights. All right, that's going to do it for hour number one. You are listening to the Mike Violette Show. I'm Keith Hansen filling in for Mike Violette on Legacy 1160 AM WSKW. News, sports, and weather for real coming up right now. Don't go away.
From the Home Auto Group Studios, Farmington Ford and Franklin Chrysler in Farmington. This is WSKW, Skowhegan, Augusta, Waterville, Legacy 1160.
ABC News and Lionel Moise. Officials urging drivers not to hoard gasoline. This as a growing number of gas stations across the Southeast are running dry after a surge in panic buying spurred by the cyber attack on a major fuel pipeline. ABC's Andrew Dimberg.
Gas stations in at least 7 states are reporting shortages from Florida to Virginia, and supply issues appear to be creeping north. According to Bloomberg, distributors say they're now getting gas on a ration basis in Linden, New Jersey, where the 5,500-mile critical pipeline ends. A cyber attack 5 days ago forced its operator, Colonial Pipeline, to shut down the pipeline, causing shortages and sending prices climbing.
The Colonial Pipeline is expected to restart most of its operations by the end of the week. President Biden will meet with congressional leadership at the White House today to discuss his trillion-dollar infrastructure plan. McConnell, McCarthy, Pelosi, and Schumer will attend. Republican Congressional Conference Chair Liz Cheney could be voted out of her position today. This is ABC News. An elderly Asian man attacked in Northern California. ABC's Alex Stone.
Teenagers giggle as they attack and rob an 80-year-old Asian man who's calling out for help. Caught on a home surveillance camera in the Bay Area city of San Leandro, The elderly man got knocked to the ground by the two teens. Police say the suspects who took off are as young as 16. San Leandro Police Lieutenant Ali Khan says the past year has been violent involving Asian victims.
We saw an almost 300% increase in crimes towards our Asian and Pacific Islander community members.
In response, his department is boosting patrols. Alex Stone, ABC News.
The San Francisco 49ers will host teen vaccination nights today and tomorrow at Levi Stadium, which is California's largest mass vaccination site. Several states and cities turned down vaccine shipments this week, resulting in 2.5 million doses being thrown back into a federal pool. 3 states requested more doses. Lionel Moise, ABC News.
This is your HelloFresh mini break. There will be no grocery store crowds today or figuring out what's in the fridge. You already chose from over 25 chef-created recipes this week. There will be a HelloFresh box on your doorstep filled with fresh, pre-portioned ingredients that, in as little as 20 minutes, will become restaurant-quality meals. And giving yourself a break is back on the table.
Go to HelloFresh.com/Sky12 and use code Sky12 to get 12 free meals, including free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/Sky12, code Sky12.
Jay Farner here, CEO of Rocket Mortgage and Rocket Companies. Last year, we saw historically low mortgage interest rates. What you may not know is that interest rates are already starting to increase, and it's likely that trend is only going to continue. Our team of experts is standing by to help you save before rates go up. Don't look back and wish that you had taken action. Call 833-8ROCKET or visit rocketmortgage.com.
Rocket. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender licensed in all 50 states and MLSConsumerAccess.org.
I'm CBS 13's Jeff Peterson on Legacy 1160 WSKW. A trucker from Auburn is accused of trying to lure a 15-year-old boy for sex. Police say 45-year-old Sean Arnold thought he was talking to a teen about meeting up in Connecticut, but it was actually an activist group posting as a teen online. According to investigators, the group confronted Arnold at a truck stop and waited for officers to arrive. He's now facing several charges, including sexual assault. Presidents of Bates, Bowdoin, and Colby colleges wrote a joint letter to the Maine legislature expressing support for transgender student athletes. The letter says in part, quote, "We should not exclude transgender girls from these important experiences, force them to choose between being themselves and participating in sports." First grade students at Oakland are growing their home libraries thanks to one student teacher from Thomas College. Alisa Paquette, an education student, says some kids have less access to books during the pandemic and aren't reading at the level where they should be. So the student teacher took matters into her own hands and raised money to buy 10 books for every first grade student at Atwood Primary School. The home library project will continue next year, and 10 more books will be provided to each first grader at the school. Red Sox lose to the A's 3-2. Same two teams tonight at 7:10. In hockey, the Bruins fall to the Capitals 2-1, and the Celtics lose to the Heat. Final score 129-121. I'm CBS 13's Jeff Peterson with a news update on Legacy 1160 WSKW.
At Fenway, Oakland A's 3, Red Sox 2. Red Sox starter Nathan Eovaldi strong through 6. Then the bullpen blew it. It was a Washington Capitals 2, the Bruins 1. Very good game featuring minor leaguers and bench players. Bruce Cassidy.
Other guys stepped right in and did a good job. That played with some conviction, attacked, game went along, got more comfortable. They had the puck a little more, got to play with it. So some good things.
Bruin coach Bruce Cassidy. The Bruins Capitals. First playoff game, Saturday. Celtics, hard to watch. Miami 129, Celtics 121. Brad Stevens heading for the NBA's play-in tournament for the also-rans.
Talked about it even in the locker room. We had so many unsolid possessions, and then we switched out of convenience and not necessity. It really hurt us. And as a result, later in the game, there's more indecision.
Celtic coach Brad Stevens. Follow me on Twitter at Tom Cuddy.
I'm CBS 13 meteorologist Lexi O'Connor. Partly to mostly sunny this morning with a slight chance for a shower. We'll see more clouds developing this afternoon and evening with scattered showers, highs in the low 60s. Partly to mostly sunny for tomorrow and Friday. Mid to upper 60s, near 70 degrees inland on Friday. Staying warm and partly sunny with the chance for showers this weekend.
Running, get out on the highway, looking for adventure, and whatever comes my way.
7:06 on Legacy 1160 AM WSKW. Welcome back to hour number 2 of the Mike Violette Show. I'm Keith Hansen filling in for Mike Violette on this Wednesday morning, the 12th day of May 2021. Mike Violette Show brought to you by Kennebec Electric and Lighting. Visit KennebecElectric.com to learn more. And during the top of the hour break here, I am sipping on my coffees. Now, I got to tell you, I do like Dunkin' Donuts iced coffee. I have to be honest. Mike Violette Show is powered by the Bailey family of Dunkin's, the official coffee for Legacy 1160 AM WSKW. I don't even know what I'm drinking this morning. It's because I am not. Truth be told, I am not in Maine. I'm actually broadcasting from my home studio in Grantham, New Hampshire. And I'm trying to think of what I have here. It's called Black Silk Espresso. It's this organic fair trade. It's about the closest I'm going to come to like hippie stuff. And I get it at this hippie co-op. Which it's just, it's like a lot of I don't know. It's like $14 for a head of arugula at this place. It's the only thing that I buy is this coffee. But I'll tell you, it has got the caffeine that I need to get me going, certainly through a morning drive program. And 4 hours of morning drive was what I did for 4 years up here in central New Hampshire before getting into the afternoon drive. I also have a nightly show, too, that is nationally syndicated, the Keith Hansen Show. So that hits about 200,000 people every evening, and it's fun. And listen, I love talk radio. I love the variety of talk radio. I love when we get into very impassioned conversations. I love it when I have your yogurt flinging, Prius driving, Birkenstock wearing, silver short cropped haired hyphenated last name hippies that want to call me up and bloviate about what a racist, misogynistic, homophobic, blah blah blah, whatever ism you want to give me. I love it when they call and they want to challenge, because it's just fun noodling them, just poking them with a stick, because they're so emotional. And the coffee that I drink, that super high octane, that's what powers it. I have to be honest. I remember the first time that I ever had management come to me and say, think about this. Out of all the things that you would say on talk radio, when I started off doing the morning drive program, I had the co-host that I was working with. He said, so I see you got your cup of coffee there. He says, how do you like your coffee? And I said, I like my coffee like I like my women, dark and bitter. Wow. Like that, you would have thought that I insulted the Pope when I said that. It's pretty crazy. But I do. I like my coffee dark. I like it very dark. I like a super dark roast. And I like it almost bitter. I mean, I want a cup of coffee that if between the time that I pour it and I finish it, if it hasn't jumped up and tried to steal my wallet, there's a problem. Got to be honest. 48 degrees currently outside the studios in Augusta. I have no idea what it is actually here in Grantham, New Hampshire. Probably pretty close to that as well, too. Got mostly cloudy skies. Starting to see some of those clouds break up right now. Got partly cloudy skies in Fairfield, 45 degrees under mostly cloudy skies in Norwich Walk, and mostly cloudy skies, 44 degrees currently in Smithfield. So again, look for highs today. And just as the updates now continue to come in from the National Weather Service, looks like lower 60s today under a good mixture of sun and clouds, but tomorrow and certainly going into Friday as well, too. This is where we're going to see the really, really nice weather. More sun than clouds now is what National Weather Service is calling for tomorrow. Temperatures in the mid to upper 60s tomorrow and 70 degrees at least getting into inland Maine tomorrow. Going to be a little bit cooler on the coast, of course, but, that makes for a good beach day. Get out on the beach with a nice bottle of red and a charcuterie board. That's a great way to spend a Friday evening. Watch the sunset. Well, I mean, you get your back to the sunset, but, you know what I mean. And just get out there and enjoy it. All right, coming up in this hour, we're going to be checking in with Dave Ray. Dave is the communications director for the Federation for American Immigration Reform. We're going to get into just the absolute... I don't even know what to call it. I mean, to call it a debacle is really not giving it the respect that it deserves. What's happening at the border. And I think what's most egregious about this is the fact that the Biden administration, who is directly responsible for creating this historic border crisis, primarily through executive actions and policy changes. And of course, remember, these executive actions and policy changes were aimed directly at dismantling the immigration enforcement and the controls, and also making now these ridiculous amnesty proposals. And we look at why this is. Now, I had mentioned to you earlier that Tom Homan, the former acting director of the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Bureau, He has become a pretty good friend. He's been on my program many times. And one of the interviews that I did with him was a face-to-face meeting down in Washington, D.C. And I asked him, I said, is this ever going to end? Because it really becomes something that is akin to a tennis match. The ball simply gets lobbed to the other side of the net, depending on who happens to be in charge. And if you recall from the previous segment, we talked about political expediency and political capital. Well, the issue of immigration, and certainly the immigrants themselves, or in this particular case, the illegal aliens, become a commodity. They literally commoditize, the politicians, literally commoditize these individuals. There's money, and there's power, and there's votes. Now, one of the things that I think, irrespective of where you happen to be on the aisle, politically, I think you would agree that this past election, November of 2020, what we saw was a record number of traditionally Democrat voters voting for Trump. I'll say that again. Traditionally Democrat voters voting for Trump. One of the only good things to come out of the summer of love. Remember, this is the reference that the media and certain politicians gave to the riots that were taking place from coast to coast. The summer of love, the mostly peaceful protests that were going on. Well, the good thing that came out of that, two things really. Number one, the fact that Democrats refused to condemn it. So when you refuse to condemn something, when you refuse to take a direct and decisive stance against something, there is a concept called tacit approval. The concept of tacit approval is, well, you didn't come out and condemn this, therefore you must be okay with it. And unfortunately, it's a concept that works both ways, but specifically in the context of progressive Democrats and what happened over the previous summer, you saw they didn't condemn them. The Democrat presidential, and you'll notice I say Democrat. I don't use the word democratic because there's nothing democratic about it. That's on purpose, by the way. I had a progressive talk show host call me out on this once. Well, you keep using the word Democrat. You keep saying the Democrat Party. It's the Democratic Party. No, there's nothing democratic about it. There's a reason why democracy is identified as a perverted form of government. If you look at the Aristotle's 6 forms of government, you'll find that the democracy is a perverted form of government because democracies always devolve into totalitarian systems. And that's exactly what the Democrats are trying to do. When they get enough power, then they rig the system so that way they never have to worry about competition. They don't want competition. They don't like competition. They don't like being challenged. Think about it from this perspective. The truth never minds being questioned. Never. But lies hate being challenged. I have absolutely no problem when people want to challenge me, when they want to question what I have come to conclude is truth. Because my arguments are very, very well thought out. They're researched. Along those lines, it's kind of interesting. People like me are labeled as conspiracy theorists. But the people who are involved in conspiracy theorists, the pushback that you'll hear. Oh, you're a conservative. Oh, you're one of those right-wing conspiracy theorists. You should do your research and educate yourself. I would submit to you that the people who get labeled as conspiracy theorists are the ones who have done the greatest amount of research, probably more than anybody else in the room. Not only have they done their research, but they've put that research through a very well-established and well-defined analytical framework. And they've arrived at a conclusion. More so than the people who are doing the labeling of conspiracy theory. Think about that for a moment. Anyway, I'm digressing here. The summer of love. So you have politicians that are looking at this and saying, well, we don't want to get involved in that. And certainly you saw the Democrat candidates, not the Democratic candidates, the Democrat candidates. Again, because there's nothing democratic about their process. The Democrat candidates refuse to come out and condemn the behavior. It's tacit approval. Especially something that is dealing with, it's entrenched in destruction. Oh, here we go. Look at destruction of private property. We spent an hour talking about systemic racism and the elimination of private ownership of wealth, the destruction of private ownership of wealth, and that which allows people to produce that wealth. What are we seeing? We're seeing private businesses that are being destroyed, private businesses that are being burned down, and more to the point, they're being given a pass. How many of the people that rioted in Portland, how many of those people have had charges dropped? The vast majority of them. There's no accountability. Who came out and condemned the actions of the Summer of Love? The Republican Party. The Republican Party experienced an unprecedented and certainly an unexpected PR campaign, a facelift of sorts. For decades, the Republican Party has been presented as the party of the stiff, starched collar, white shirt. I'm going to go have a 4-martini lunch at 3 o'clock at the afternoon in the country club. That is the image. That was the impression. If you think back to how you've kind of looked at the parties, well, the Democrat Party has always been the party of the blue-collar worker. If you use your hands to make a living, you're a Democrat. If you use your brain to make a living and you don't get your hands dirty, well, then you're a Republican. That was the perception. And I'm not, it's not saying that this is my philosophy. I'm just telling you, this is what the perception is. You survey a lot of people, and whatever your survey pool happens to be, I think you're going to find that that tends to be the case. People tend to look at the Democrat Party as the party of the working class, the proletariat, and the Republican Party as the wealthy, the business owners, things like that. The Republican Party had an unprecedented facelift during the Summer of Love. What ultimately happened was that the American public saw the Republican Party as the party of the family, the party of law and order, the party of constitutional rule. And so what happened is more and more people looked at what the Democrats were doing, or more appropriately, not doing, by condemning the actions and saying, this isn't something I side with. I don't side with this. This party, this political movement does not embody what's important to me. I'm an American. I believe in law and order. I believe in family. I believe in people having an opportunity. I believe in not permitting, not giving tacit approval, or giving an outright pass to people to go out and destroy, to rob, to assault, in some instances, to murder. So what you have now is a large segment of the population that is abandoning the Democrat Party. They're running out of voters. So what is their answer? They have to import more. And that's exactly what they're doing. 44 degrees, partly cloudy skies in Canaan. 44, mostly cloudy skies in Mercer. 45 degrees, cloudy skies in Augusta. Going to take a very, very quick break. Much more of the Mike Violette Show coming up right after this.
We have a lot of opportunity for upward mobility.
Moody's definitely helped me through. They sent me to school. I got my degree in business. I had the demeanor and I had the willpower and the want.
Our trade is constantly changing and there's always new challenges that arise.
I definitely feel like an owner. It's very exciting.
When you like what you do, you like your job, you like the people you work with, what else could you ask for?
Bring your skills to Moody's and build a long-term future.
Spring is the time of renewal for both you and your home. So brighten your day and your surroundings with great items from Townline Antiques. Do you love classic decor? You'll find furniture, artwork, glassware, signs, and hundreds more pieces around every corner. Their classic colors and styles will have you thinking spring and feeling invigorated every time you see them. Or maybe you enjoy collecting books, comics, coins, sports memorabilia, watches, or classic electronics. Townline Antiques has rare items that you won't find find anywhere else. Townline is also showcasing a new display of art glass that's absolutely dazzling. Each piece is one of a kind with its own unique flair of colors and form. You simply have to see them to appreciate their beauty. And for everyone who loves to bring items back to life, they're now carrying high-quality fusion mineral paints that give you beautiful color and a durable, long-lasting finish. Townline Antiques, open Tuesday through Sunday from 10 to 5. Run the Winslow-Vassaboro Town.
Us hardworking men still want to look our best. That's why you need to head to Penny's Barber Shop. You'll get an excellent haircut, straight edge neck shave, and a hot towel wrap, all for only $18.
Hi, I'm Christine, and I know what you're looking for when it comes to a great haircut and shave. From traditional styles to new ones, we listen to our customers because we have done it all.
When you look good, you feel good. So call Penny's Barber Shop to set up an appointment today at 380-6224. Penny's Barber Shop, 173 State Street in Augusta, next to Enterprise.
These are a few of my favorite things. Oh, hi, Mike Violette here for Wendy's. And my friends at Wendy's have made two of my favorite things, coffee and ice cream, even better. Because you see, at Wendy's now, you can get a small signature cold brew iced coffee or a Frosty Chino with real Frosty creamer for just $1 for a limited time. How about a Frosty Chino at 8 a.m.? Yep, only $1. Pair the cold brew iced coffee or the Frosty Chino with a breakfast Baconator. I think you've just made the perfect morning. The Wendy's Frosty Chino. It's the signature cold brew iced coffee swirled with Wendy's legendary vanilla, or my favorite thing, chocolate Frosty creamer served over ice. It's cool, it's creamy, it's delicious, and it comes in two sizes, small and large. So if you're starting your day with one of those great fresh cracked eggs on one of Wendy's breakfast sandwiches, or you need a pick-me-up, you can get a small Wendy's Frosty Chino or a small cold brew coffee for just $1 all day long. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's. Limited time only. Price and participation.
Legacy 1160 WSKW.
Check it out.
Yeah, you gotta throw your hands in the air like you's a true player, like you just don't care. I know you care. That's why you're tuned in. The Mike Violette Show, brought to you by Kennebec Electric and Lighting. Visit KennebecElectric.com to learn more. Powered by the Bailey family of Dunkin's, the official coffee of Legacy 1160 AM. WSKW. I'm your host, Keith Hansen, filling in for the great Mike Violette on this Wednesday, the 12th day of May, 2021. Great to have you along. And we got the sun along, too, as well. It's starting to clear up out there. Got more and more of that cloud cover moving out right now. 47 degrees in Mercer, 46 degrees in Augusta, 47 degrees, still partly cloudy there in Waterville. I, of course, broadcasting from the bunker here in Grantham, New Hampshire, over in the live free or die state. Well, I guess we're still living free over here. We don't have an income tax. We don't have a sales tax. I don't know how much longer we're going to be able to hold out for that, to be honest with you. But I tell you, the teachers' unions, they are looking to ram through an income tax so that way they can pad their own pockets. It's an interesting thing that's happening here in New Hampshire. Teachers pay. This is fascinating. This is a story that came out yesterday. The New Hampshire teachers pay $7 million in dues. I don't know what your rates are here in Maine, but the news outlet New Hampshire Journal obtained documents that revealed 75% of the $7 million in dues that teachers in New Hampshire pay go to salaries for top staff, not to programs that benefit the teachers. Think about that. Federal tax documents from 2018 show that $7 million was taken from the paychecks of teachers and given to the union headed by this woman is just a troll and a half. Megan Tuttle. She's the president of the New Hampshire Teachers Union. $5.2 million of that money went to salaries and benefits. Less than $88,000 of $7 million went to training and benefits to teachers. So there you go. All for me and none for thee. That should be the motto of the progressive Democrat movement. And I think it's a great segue right back into the conversation that we were having. People are starting to wake up to exactly what the Democrat Party is, what the progressive movement is all about. It is all for me and none for thee. That, by the way, kids, is exactly what socialism is all about. It's one of the reasons that true communism could never be achieved. And people say all the time, well, communism is a great idea on paper. No, it's not a great idea on paper. It is one of the most evil, morally bankrupt concepts that could exist either on paper or in the mind of another person. Truly, only the mind of a person who is an underachiever, Karl Marx, could possibly come up with this concept. And it will never be achieved. Ever. The reason why socialism always devolves into tyranny, despite how well-intentioned it may happen to be. If you haven't had a chance to look it up, and email me, keithontheair@gmail.com. I'll send you a coupon for one free Google search. Use that Google search to look up, or DuckDuckGo, or whatever you happen to have. Look up Abraham Maslow, M-A-S-L-O-W, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you need to understand why communism will never be achieved and socialism will never work, despite attempt after attempt after attempt, it can be very easily explained with a cursory understanding of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's very, very simple. People are inherently, I don't want to use the word greedy, but I'll use it in the Gordon Gekko sense of the term. People are greedy. What do I mean with the Gordon Gekko? Remember the movie Wall Street? Gordon Gekko, played by Michael Douglas, stands up in front of the stockholders meeting of Teldar Paper and said, greed, for lack of a better word, is good. I have this memorized. Greed is right. Greed works. Greed cuts through, captures, and clarifies the essence of the evolutionary spirit. Greed in all of its forms, for money, for life, for love, for knowledge, has marked the upward surge of mankind. And greed, you mark my words, will not only save Teldar Paper, but that other malfunctioning corporation called the USA. I memorized that when I was a kid. Because I used to be told, well, you're greedy. I was a little Alex P. Keaton when I was a kid. And I remember I had a family member who said, you're greedy. I'm not greedy. I want the best for me, but here's the thing, I also want the best for you too. It's a benevolent greed. I want to take care of myself. I want to make sure that my basic needs are met. Understand Maslow, you understand this concept. But if I have something that guarantees and ensures that my needs will be taken care of, would I ever relinquish that? Would I ever relinquish guarantees for chance? This, by the way, is one of the reasons why this universal basic income and all of these unemployment benefits that you're hearing about, you're seeing states now that are trying to reject that. We're doing that here in New Hampshire. We don't want the federal money coming in, the additional $300. Why? Because it's I don't want to say customized now. People are becoming accustomed to being lazy and doing nothing. They're having their needs met. If you go to work, well, you could lose your job, or you might get a pay cut, or whatever the case may be. A guaranteed existence would always be preferred over a chance that you might not make it. So why would you be in a position where you're overseeing the distribution of other people's money and property and wealth and supplies and resources and food and everything else like that, and then suddenly turn around and dissolve it? If you're questioning what I'm talking about, you don't understand what communism is. Socialism is all about me and none for thee. It's great for the socialist, but it sucks for the average person. People are rejecting the narrative of the Democrat Party. They're doing it in record numbers. And I think even more to the point. That's why it's so desperate right now. The Democrats are so desperate to be able to rig the system because people will continue to fundamentally reject the ideologies of the progressive left and vote Republican. They can't have that. So they have to import that new proletariat. All right, 45 degrees currently in Smithfield, 45 in Norwich Walk, 45 in Pittsfield. News, sports, and weather coming up. Then when we come back, Dave Ray from the Federation for American Immigration Reform. Don't go away.
Lionel Moise. Officials urging drivers not to hoard gasoline. This as a growing number of gas stations across the Southeast are running dry after a surge in panic buying spurred by the cyber attack on a major fuel pipeline. ABC's Andrew Dimberg.
Gas stations in at least 7 states are reporting shortages from Florida to Virginia, and supply issues appear to be creeping north. According to Bloomberg, distributors say they're now getting gas on a ration basis in Linden, New Jersey, where the 5,500-mile critical pipeline ends. A cyber attack 5 days ago forced its operator, Colonial Pipeline, to shut down the pipeline, causing shortages and sending prices climbing.
The Colonial Pipeline is expected to restart most of its operations by the end of the week. President Biden will meet with congressional leadership at the White House today to discuss his trillion-dollar infrastructure plan. McConnell, McCarthy, Pelosi, and Schumer will attend. Republican Congressional Conference Chair Liz Cheney could be voted out of her position today. This is ABC News.
This is your HelloFresh mini break. There will be no grocery store crowds today or figuring out what's in the fridge. You already chose from over 25 chef-created recipes this week. There will be a HelloFresh box on your doorstep filled with fresh, pre-portioned ingredients that, in as little as 20 minutes, will become restaurant-quality meals. And giving yourself a break is back on the table.
Go to HelloFresh.com/Sky12 and use code Sky12 to get 12 free meals, including free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/Sky12, code Sky12.
Jay Farner here, CEO of Rocket Mortgage and Rocket Companies. Last year, we saw historically low mortgage interest rates. What you may not know is that interest rates are already starting to increase, and it's likely that trend is only going to continue. Our team of experts is standing by to help you save before rates go up. Don't look back and wish that you had taken action. Call 833-8ROCKET or visit rocketmortgage.com.
Rocket. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender licensed in all 50 states and MLSConsumerAccess.org.
I'm CBS 13's Jeff Peterson on Legacy 1160 WSKW. A trucker from Auburn is accused of trying to lure a 15-year-old boy for sex. Police say 45-year-old Sean Arnold thought he was talking to a teen about meeting up in Connecticut, but it was actually an activist group posting as a teen online. According to investigators, the group confronted Arnold at a truck stop and waited for officers to arrive. He's now facing several charges, including sexual assault. Presidents of Bates, Bowdoin, and Colby colleges wrote a joint letter to the Maine legislature expressing support for transgender student athletes. The letter says in part, quote, "We should not exclude transgender girls from these important experiences, force them to choose between being themselves and participating in sports." First grade students at Oakland are growing their home libraries thanks to one student teacher from Thomas College. Alisa Paquette, an education student, says some kids have less access to books during the pandemic and aren't reading at the level where they should be. So the student teacher took matters into her own hands and raised money to buy 10 books for every first grade student at Atwood Primary School. The home library project will continue next year, and 10 more books will be provided to each first grader at the school. Red Sox lose to the A's 3-2. Same two teams tonight at 7:10. In hockey, the Bruins fall to the Capitals 2-1, and the Celtics lose to the Heat. Final score 129-121. I'm CBS 13's Jeff Peterson with a news update on Legacy 1160 WSKW.
Red Sox lost to Oakland 3-2. Sox led in the seventh inning when the A's scored twice off reliever Darwinson Hernandez. Alex Cora not happy with his bullpen failure.
I know people like to point out at the negatives and all that, but at the end of the day, before this game, we had the best record in baseball. And not too many people thought we were going to be able to do that before the season. So, we're in a good spot, but we still have to keep getting better. We still have to work. They've been doing a good job.
Alex Cora, Rafael Devers, a home run. Bruins and Capitals in a pre-playoff matchup. Caps win 2-1, but the Bruins seldom used or minor league players played pretty well. Bruce Cassidy.
Oh, I thought they played better as the game went along. Guys played with a little more conviction. We tried to encourage them that, hey, that they belong here. Listen, it's a good team we're playing. Circumstances are a little bit unique. The last game of the year, for some of them, might be the last game you play.
Bruins coach Bruce Cassidy and the Celtics lost again, 129-121 to Miami. Follow me on Twitter at Tom Cuddy.
I'm CBS 13 meteorologist Lexi O'Connor. Partly to mostly sunny this morning with a slight chance for a shower. We'll see more clouds developing this afternoon and evening with scattered showers, highs in the low 60s. Partly to mostly sunny for tomorrow and Friday. Mid to upper 60s, near 70 degrees inland on Friday. Staying warm and partly sunny with the chance for showers this weekend.
Hey folks, who's thinking about spring? Hi, this is Bernie from Trailside Performance. If you're taking on those tough chores around your property, come check out the #1 selling farm tractor in the world, Mahindra. Not only are Mahindra tractors tough, but they come with a 7-year warranty to back it up. With Mahindra, there's no regeneration, no diesel particulate filter, and no hassle. I personally invite you to our Winslow or Newport location to learn more about Mahindra and their awesome discounts and finance programs. At Trailside Performance, we service what we sell, and we sell Mahindra.
These are a few of my favorite things. Oh, hi, Mike Violette here for Wendy's. And my friends at Wendy's have made two of my favorite things, coffee and ice cream, even better. Because you see, at Wendy's now, you can get a small signature cold brew iced coffee or a Frosty Chino with real Frosty creamer for just $1 for a limited time. How about a Frosty Chino at 8 a.m.? Yep, only $1. Pair the cold brew iced coffee or the Frosty Chino with a breakfast Baconator. I think you've just made the perfect morning. The Wendy's Frosty Chino. It's the signature cold brew iced coffee swirled with Wendy's legendary vanilla, or my favorite thing, Chocolate Frosty Creamer served over ice. It's cooled, it's creamy, it's delicious, and it comes in 2 sizes, small and large. So if you're starting your day with one of those great fresh cracked eggs on one of Wendy's breakfast sandwiches, or you need a pick-me-up, you can get a small Wendy's Frosty Chino or a small cold brew coffee for just $1 all day long. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's. Limited time only. Price and participation may vary.
Hi, my name is Tony Esposito from Rockland Ford. If you haven't heard, things are getting even crazier in the car business. Computer chip shortages mean that we have no idea when we will be getting new vehicles. Now, what does that mean for you? Your used car has skyrocketed in value. You may even be able to make a profit on it. At Rockland Ford, we are paying all the money for used vehicles every single day. So call us and take advantage of the market before it's over. On another note, as Rockland Ford continues to grow, we are looking for new team members to join our family. We are hiring for all departments with sign-on bonuses of up to $10,000. Some positions don't require any experience at all, so if you have been looking to start a career in a fun, fast-paced, team-oriented environment, then we want you on our team. Call us at Rockland Ford, home of the Rock Bottom Deal, Route 1 in Thomaston.
Incense and Peppermints doesn't just have a huge selection of scrumptious candies. They have sweet treats that'll bring back wonderful memories every time you share them. Incense and Peppermints has candy that's fun for the whole family, like Jelly Bellies, Smarties, Turkish Taffy, Mellow Cups, Laffy Taffy, and Necco wafers. And candy that'll take you on a trip down memory lane, like old-fashioned penny candies, root beer barrels, atomic fireballs, Mary Jane's Bit of Honey, and Jawbreakers. They even carry Maine favorites like Moose Poop and Saltwater Taffy. Incense and Peppermints, 48 Main Street in downtown Waterville.
Hi, this is Mike Perkins from KMD Motorcycle School. If you're interested in earning your motorcycle license, contact us to sign up for classes. Starting soon, they are available 7 days a week. Call 465-4835 or visit kmddrivingschool.com.
The fishing boats go out across the evening water, smuggling guns and arms across the Spanish border.
7:38 on Legacy 1160 AM WSKW, the Mike Violette Show. Keith Hansen filling in for Mike Violette, powered by the Bailey family of Duncan's, the official coffee of Legacy 1160, and brought to you by Kennebec Electric and Lighting. You can visit to learn more, KennebeckElectric.com. That's KennebeckElectric.com. All right, took an extended commercial break there because having a little bit of an issue getting Dave Ray connected here. I just want to double check and make sure. Dave, are you with us right now?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm sorry. I kind of it bugged out there for a minute for me, but I'm with you.
That's okay. All right, so just without further ado, I got to bring you on here. Dave Ray, Communications Director for the Federation for American Immigration Reform, joining me on well, I would normally say the WSMN, which is my home studio, but I guess we'll call it today, for lack of a better term, the WSKW Skype line, which is why you sound so good. Which you're a handsome devil, and you always sound good. So it's a pleasure having you on the program. I would encourage people to check out the website fairus.org. That's fairus.org. In the previous segment, Dave, we were talking about this. You and I have had this conversation before, and I've reflected on this conversation that I've had with Tom Homan on a number of occasions. You know, the reasons why it'll never get fixed. Republicans want cheap labor, Democrats want cheap votes, and Americans want cheap tomatoes. I think the issue here right now is, and I was setting this up during the previous segment, that the Biden administration recognizes that the Democrat Party is starting to lose the faith and the support of mainstream America. And at this point in time, it's absolutely critical that they import a new Democrat class. They're, in essence, what they're doing is importing a new proletariat, a new working class that they believe they can exploit and for the most part, co-opt into becoming Democrat voters, guaranteeing them wins in the future.
Well, that's absolutely correct, Keith. You know, the Republican Party has always been split on immigration, you know, between the part of the party that wants to have, you know, national sovereignty and the rights of the United States to protect its borders and protect its people, and then the Wall Street wing of the party that wants unfettered access to cheap, exploitable labor. The problem is that eventually the mathematics don't work out in favor of the Republican Party, because mass immigration, by and large, we are importing future Democrats. In fact, the Center for Immigration Study recently found that about 62% of those who become U.S. citizens register as Democrats. Now, the rest don't register as Republicans. Don't be misled by that. But what is happening here, and what the Wall Street wing of the Republican Party needs to understand, is that their mindset of wanting an endless supply of cheap labor is actually going to put them permanently in the minority in terms of political power here in Washington.
And one of the things that I said, by the way, I don't know if you've seen Mike Rowe recently or not. This guy, I don't know what he drinks or where he drinks from, but he has found the fountain of youth, because that guy he hasn't aged in 20 years. It's incredible. But, Mike Rowe used to do this show on the Discovery Channel called Dirty Jobs. And one of the things that I remember saying this going back to some of my very first shows that I ever did on talk radio. Dirty Jobs is proof positive that for a paycheck, Americans in some instances will literally crawl through a tank full of feces to bring home a good paycheck. So this concept that, immigrants are just simply doing, and more appropriately, illegal aliens are doing jobs that Americans don't want to do, I fundamentally reject that. Yes, they're doing jobs that Americans can't afford to do, but yet when you're pandering to groups of illegals who aren't paying taxes and who are basically more interested in just taking care of their absolute basic needs and then sending remittances back home to their third world countries, they can do things that the average American can't do because they're being priced out of the market.
Well, Pew Research did a very interesting study on this and looked at all the quote jobs that Americans won't do, and they found that in every one of these jobs, whether you're talking about construction or picking strawberries or cleaning hotel rooms or what have you, that when you put the U.S.-born workers and immigrants together, they make up a vast majority, over 75 to 80% of the workforce in all of these lines of work that we are told Americans won't do. I mean, think about the last year of the Trump presidency, when suddenly there was no access. The borders were closed. Everybody who showed up and tried to cross the border was turned right back around and put into Mexico. What happened there? Wages went up, and Hispanic and Black Americans experienced the lowest level of unemployment in recent memory. That's because the supply of cheap, exploitable foreign labor was temporarily turned off or slowed down, and it gave these folks a chance to get their American dream, which is really what we want everybody here who's here legally to be able to do. And so, nothing's better for the working class than a tight labor market. And, clearly things have changed. In March, when President Biden took an absolute wrecking ball to every aspect of border enforcement that was in place under Donald Trump, from the Remain in Mexico policy to the policies that the agreements we had with our neighbors in Central America. We're now seeing illegal immigration at a 20-year high. In March, there were 171,000 apprehensions at the border compared to, I think, about 30,000 this time last year. They just released the April numbers last night, 178,000 apprehensions in April. What you're not hearing about, and what the Border Patrol is talking about, are the number of they call them gotaways. A lot of these folks are coming into the country and running towards the Border Patrol. Why is that? Because they know if they say the word political asylum, particularly if they have a child with them, they'll be released into the interior of the country and simply disappear and take a job from an American. But the gotaways are people who are coming in who know that if they are apprehended, they will very likely not be given entry to the United States. These are people who are smuggling drugs, smuggling children, or smuggling forced prostitution. They're having criminal records or what have you. So there's really scary numbers right here. And, to top things off, President Biden appoints Kamala Harris to be the border czar, and she's philosophically opposed to even deporting illegal immigrants. So, it just adds insult to injury.
And she hasn't been down there. Obviously,
no.
She has no intention of going down there.
No.
It kind of makes you wonder who's in charge of this administration.
Well, the left wing AOC and the Squad seem to be making all the calls, because Joe Biden ran as a moderate, but he is by far the most left-wing president we've ever had. Now you have Chuck Schumer scheming about how to push an amnesty through the budget reconciliation process. So they only need 50 votes plus one to pass a massive amnesty for 14.5 million illegal immigrants. Now, if that actually happens and we start debating an amnesty on the floor of the Senate, can you imagine trying to hold people back from busting into the country? I mean, they have already incentivized illegal immigration by reinstating catch and release. People are coming in, they're being held, they're being put on buses and airplanes without so much as a COVID test and flown throughout the United States. There are hundreds of centers that have been put up around the country to try and disguise just how bad the problem is. The Biden administration won't let the press anywhere near any of these facilities because it doesn't want the American public to see what's happening. And their theory is the faster we can get and process and get these folks away from the border, the harder it's going to be for the American public to actually know what's going on.
It's interesting, the response to COVID. I mean, we're still, we're broadcasting here in Maine. I was in Agunquit, Maine last weekend. There are people on the beach. And I mean, when I'm talking about the beach, I'm talking, there was, if you go up to a little bit north of Agunquit, you've got Wells and Drake's Island. And I was actually up in Drake's Island, and there were people on the beach. There were probably, maybe 500, 600 feet in between people walking around with masks. You've got mask mandates still in the state of Maine. I was watching one listener comment, lift Maine mask mandates. You've got these mask mandates all over the place. Social distancing. You got the mask Nazis that are out there that, you got to wear a mask and you got to stay 6 feet apart and blah, blah, blah. But we're allowing people with absolutely no medical screens to pour across the border, congregate in large numbers. We're certainly social distancing. If it's such a big thing, as Fauci likes to describe it, then you would think that there would be protocols in place. But no, we're going to pack these people into very tight quarters. We're not going to screen them for any type of communicable diseases, including COVID-19, and then we're going to release them. And I've got a good friend who drives for Dartmouth Coach and Concord Coach Lines. It's a bus line up here in New England. So he generally is doing runs from New York up to Boston. And what he's saying is he's bringing large numbers of South American migrants, illegal aliens that are coming up here. They've got their passports, but what's really interesting is that they all have signs where they want to go. A lot of them are they're going up to Boston to head up into points north in Maine, Portland, and Augusta. But what they have are bank envelopes filled with crisp, brand new $100 bills. Where is that money coming from?
Yeah, that's a great question, Keith. I'll tell you, we had a team at the border less than a month ago, and they walked into the airport in McAllen, Texas, which is right there on the border. And there were just scores and scores of people with these manila envelopes. And on them, they said, I don't speak English. I'm trying to go to, Akron, Ohio. Will you help me get there? So that these folks didn't have a COVID test. That they didn't have a criminal background check. And what's the end game here? We're importing tens of thousands of people who are not legally allowed to be in the country, cannot legally hold a job in the country.
Hey, Dave, I hate to interrupt you. We got a very, very quick commercial break here. Just looking at the clock, we've got just a couple of seconds. Dave Ray from Federation for American Immigration Reform. Much more right after this very quick break.
From Rockland Ford. If you haven't heard, things are getting even crazier in the car business. Computer chip shortages mean that we have no idea when we will be getting new vehicles. Now, what does that mean for you? Your used car has skyrocketed in value. You may even be able to make a profit on it. At Rockland Ford, we are paying all the money for used vehicles every single day. So call us and take advantage of the market before it's over. On another note, as Rockland Ford continues to grow, we are looking for new team members to join our family. We are hiring for all departments with sign-on bonuses of up to $10,000. Some positions don't require any experience at all, so if you have been looking to start a career in a fun, fast-paced, team-oriented environment, then we want you on our team. Call us at Rockland Ford, home of the rock bottom deal, Route 1 in
Sales and service by a family who cares. Whittemore and Sons, Whittemore and Sons.
There are some things you can simply never depend on, like a perfectly cooked meal from the microwave. Will it be hot or will it be cold? There's only one way to find out. But know that you can always count on Whittemore & Sons in our line of Coyote tractors. Coyote tractors are machines made to work, whether it's mowing, tilling, digging, lifting, or hauling. Check out the full line of tough and versatile Coyote tractors, attachments, implements, and accessories at Whittemore & Sons, your Coyote tractor dealer, with dependable sales and service for over 50 years. Run ahead of the pack with a Coyote tractor from Whittemore & Sons on the Waterville Road in Skowhegan. Sales and service by a family who cares.
From work to fun, we'll help you get it done. Whittemore and Sons, outdoor power equipment.
Do you have itchy, irritated, or burning eyes? You may be experiencing dry eye syndrome. Contact Kennebec Eye Care and let them help find a solution to the problem. When we concentrate on activities like reading, driving, and computers, we blink less, which reduces the amount of tears on the surface of the eye. An exam with Kennebec Eye Care will identify what's causing the issue and how to best treat it. Schedule an appointment today by calling 872-2797. Kennebec Eye Care, your site specialists, 216 Main Street in Waterville, and online at KennebecEyeCare.com.
Legacy 1160 WSKW.
Welcome back to the Mike Violette Show. I'm your host, Keith Hansen, filling in for Mike Violette on Legacy 1160 AM WSKW, powered by the Bailey family of Duncans, the official coffee of Legacy 1160, and brought to you by Kennebec Electric and Lighting. You can visit KennebeCelectric.com to learn much more. Not a bad day out there right now. 48 degrees, fair skies in Waterville, partly cloudy, 48 degrees in Skowhegan, and 48 degrees, partly cloudy skies in Fairfield. Look for highs today in the 60s. Going to get some occasional showers later on this afternoon, but pretty pleasant day overall. And then tomorrow and Friday, even better. Look for more sun than clouds with temperatures Thursday in the upper 60s, and then on Friday getting into the 70s. So going to be definitely a very, very nice day. All right, going to jump back over to the Skype line, joined by David Ray. He is the Communications Director for the Federation for American Immigration Reform. You can read more on their website at fairus.org. That's fairus.org. Dave, thanks for sticking through that break there.
Oh, you bet.
All right. So, I wanted you to continue your thought here, because we were talking about the the importation of the proletariat. Right. What exactly is happening here, and is there going to be any semblance of normalcy and, dare I even say, law and order on the southern border, or is it only going to get worse over the next 3.5 years?
No, I mean, it's going to continue to get worse. I mean, and the Biden administration, from DHS Secretary Mayorkas down to their nominees for Customs and Border Protection and for USCIS and for ICE, are all people who are philosophically opposed to immigration enforcement. Kamala Harris, who's the border czar, who lives in a border state, has yet to be to the border. But she has publicly stated she does not believe illegal aliens should be deported. I mean, you recall the old days of catch and release before Donald Trump did away with them. When those folks were caught, they asked for political asylum. They were given paperwork, and they were given what was called an NTA, notice to appear. And they were told to fill the paperwork out and then appear before a judge at a given date in the future. We're not even giving them NTAs anymore. We're just releasing them into the interior of the country. So what is the end game here? These are people who can't work in the United States. They're deportable aliens. I mean, the only thing I can see is a long-term plan for a mass amnesty that is going to include everyone who's managed to get into this country since Joe Biden announced to the world that he was going to take down and dismantle everything that Donald Trump had in place. And it's really causing some heartburn in Latin America. I mean, first of all, you have kids there was a story the other day where, 5 kids under the age of 5 were left out in the desert. One of them was so young she couldn't even walk and was almost dead by the time ranchers came upon her. You had a group of migrants on a raft crossing the Rio Grande River. They saw the Border Patrol. They took an infant and threw it into the river so the Border Patrol would have to go retrieve the child, and the other ones could get away. We have, the president of Mexico has criticized the Biden administration for, quote, creating expectations. Migrant president. We have the president or officials in Honduras saying, the relationship between the United States and Honduras is at an all-time low. They've created a real mess here. The other part of the story that's not being told, the cartels are getting incredibly rich from this. The estimates are $14 million a day is what they're making in human smuggling. Now, over the long run, that will become very destabilizing for Mexico because the stronger the cartels are, Mexico, think about if we create a revolutionary type situation in Mexico where the cartels are wealthy enough to assert themselves over the government, then we've really created a doozy of a problem for ourselves.
Well, that's something that we haven't even talked about yet is the cartel control. People ask who is in control. I asked you earlier who's in control of this administration. If I were to ask you who is in control of the southern border, it is not CBP. It is not ICE. It is de facto. It is the narco cartels that are down there it's the amount of money that they're making. And you're talking $14 million a day just on human smuggling. We're not talking about all of the other criminal enterprises that they're engaged in.
Yeah, the Biden administration has created the largest child trafficking scheme in U.S. history. We have some 23,000 children currently in federal custody. And we are somehow supposed to try and find their illegal alien relatives here in the United States to reunite them. But once again, you have to ask, what is the end game? We've reunited people who aren't allowed to be in this country in the first place. It seems to me if we were going to reunite them, we would fly the illegal alien family members down to the border where the children are and then send the whole family back to the country where they can legally reside because it's not the United States. We are doing everything upside down, and it's creating a lot of problems, a lot of human suffering. The ranchers along the border are reporting that they're finding more and more bodies as the temperatures get higher. We've incentivized people to take risky trips, risking their lives, and some of them are paying with their lives. And this is not how immigration is supposed to work in the United States.
No, I absolutely agree. Yeah, we've got about a minute and 20 seconds left here, so we really don't have a lot of opportunity to segue into anything more in depth at this point. I would really encourage people to check out FAIR's website, fairus.org. That's fairus.org. If people really quickly in like 30 seconds or less, Dave, if people want to get more involved, if they're just upset. They're vocal. They want to do something. What is the best way for people to actually make a difference in this? Let's call it a battle, because that's exactly what it is.
Become a member of FAIR. We're the nation's premier immigration watchdog group. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, meaning all of your donations are 100% tax deductible. We have 3 million members and supporters across the country. Check us out on our website, fairus.org. Join the organization. I'm a member myself. I believe that I'm helping to fight for America's future, for my children and my grandchildren, and I would encourage you to do the same.
Dave Ray, Communications Director for the Federation for American Immigration Reform. It is a privilege and a pleasure to have worked with you guys for the past several years, and look forward to having you on again. It's always an interesting conversation. Thank you.
You bet.
All right. News, sports, and weather coming up. Currently 49 degrees under mostly cloudy skies in Augusta. And detailed forecast coming up
from the
right now.
Model Group Studios, Farmington Ford and Franklin Chrysler in Farmington. This is WSKW, Skowhegan, Augusta, Waterville, Legacy 1160.
ABC News and Lionel Moise. Officials urging drivers not to hoard gasoline. This as a growing number of gas stations across the Southeast are running dry after a surge in panic buying spurred by the cyber attack on a major fuel pipeline. ABC's Andrew Dimberg.
Gas stations in at least 7 states are reporting shortages from Florida to Virginia, and supply issues appear to be creeping north. According to Bloomberg, distributors say they're now getting gas on a ration basis in Linden, New Jersey, where the 5,500-mile critical pipeline ends. A cyber attack 5 days ago forced its operator, Colonial Pipeline, to shut down the pipeline, causing shortages and sending prices climbing.
The Colonial Pipeline is expected to restart most of its operations by the end of the week. President Biden will meet with congressional leadership at the White House today to discuss his trillion-dollar infrastructure plan. McConnell, McCarthy, Pelosi, and Schumer will attend. Republican Congressional Conference Chair Liz Cheney could be voted out of her position today. This is ABC News. An elderly Asian man attacked in Northern California. ABC's Alex Stone.
Teenagers giggle as they attack and rob an 80-year-old Asian man who's calling out for help. Caught on a home surveillance camera in the Bay Area city of San Leandro, the elderly man got knocked to the ground by the two teens. Police say the suspects who took off are as young as 16. San Leandro Police Lieutenant Ali Khan says the past year has been violent involving Asian victims.
We saw an almost 300% increase in crimes towards our Asian and Pacific Islander community members.
In response, his department is boosting patrols. Alex Stone, ABC News.
The San Francisco 49ers will host teen vaccination nights today and tomorrow at Levi Stadium, which is California's largest mass vaccination site. Several states and cities turned down vaccine shipments this week, resulting in 2.5 million doses being thrown back into a federal pool. 3 states requested more doses. Lionel Moise, ABC News.
This is your HelloFresh mini break. There will be no grocery store crowds today or figuring out what's in the fridge. You already chose from over 25 chef-created recipes this week. There will be a HelloFresh box on your doorstep filled with fresh, pre-portioned ingredients that, in as little as 20 minutes, will become restaurant-quality meals. And giving yourself a break is back on the table.
Go to HelloFresh.com/Sky12 and use code Sky12 to get 12 free meals, including free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/Sky12, code Sky12.
Jay Farner here, CEO of Rocket Mortgage and Rocket Companies. Last year, we saw historically low mortgage interest rates. What you may not know is that interest rates are already starting to increase, and it's likely that trend is only going to continue. Our team of experts is standing by to help you save before rates go up. Don't look back and wish that you had taken action. Call 833-8ROCKET or visit rocketmortgage.com. Rocket.
Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender licensed in all 50 states and MLSConsumerAccess.org.
I'm CBS 13's Jeff Peterson on Legacy 1160 WSKW. A trucker from Auburn is accused of trying to lure a 15-year-old boy for sex. Police say 45-year-old Sean Arnold thought he was talking to a teen about meeting up in Connecticut, but it was actually an activist group posting as a teen online. According to investigators, the group confronted Arnold at a truck stop and waited for officers to arrive. He's now facing several charges, including sexual assault. Presidents of Bates, Bowdoin, and Colby colleges write a joint letter to the Maine legislature expressing support for transgender student athletes. The letter says in part, quote, "We should not exclude transgender girls from these important experiences, force them to choose between being themselves and participating in sports." First grade students at Oakland are growing their home libraries thanks to one student teacher from Thomas College. Alisa Paquette, an education student, says some kids have less access to books during the pandemic and aren't reading at the level where they should be. So the student teacher took matters into her own hands and raised money to buy 10 books for every first grade student at Atwood Primary School. The Home Library Project will continue next year, and 10 more books will be provided to each first grader at the school. Red Sox lose to the A's 3-2. Same two teams tonight at 7:10. In hockey, the Bruins fall to the Capitals 2-1, and the Celtics lose to the Heat. Final score 129-121. I'm CBS 13's Jeff Peterson with a news update on Legacy 1160 WSKW.
A rare happening. Red Sox, Bruins, Celtics all lose. Red Sox lost 3-2 to Oakland. A's scored twice off reliever Darwins and Hernandez in the 7th inning, wasting a strong performance from starting pitcher Nathan Eovaldi.
Splitters were good. I mixed my off speed enough to keep him off balance. I think before I was kind of getting him a little bit of predictable counts, and I think that's why my outings weren't as great in the 2 prior. But tonight I felt like I mixed my pitches really well, and again the fastball felt really good coming out.
Nathan Eovaldi, Rafael Devers a home run. It was Miami 129, Celtics 121. Celtics heading for the NBA play-in series. Brad Stevens.
And obviously, we still have a week left before the play-ins start. Time is running out. We've got to play better and find the best version of ourselves over the next week and get ready for likely next Tuesday.
Celtic coach Brad Stevens. And in the final game of the regular season, a very good game, by the way, Capitals 2, Bruins 1. Follow me on Twitter at Tom Cuddy Sports.
I'm CBS 13 meteorologist Lexi O'Connor. Partly to mostly sunny this morning with a slight chance for a shower. We'll see more clouds developing this afternoon and evening with scattered showers, highs in the low 60s. Partly to mostly sunny for tomorrow and Friday. Mid to upper 60s, near 70 degrees inland on Friday. Staying warm and partly sunny with a chance for showers this weekend.
Running, head out on the highway, looking for adventure, and whatever comes my way.
8:06 on a Legacy 1160 AM WSKW. You're listening to the Mike Violette Show. I'm Keith Hansen filling in for Mike Violette. Mike Violette Show is powered by the Bailey family of Dunkins, the official coffee of Legacy 1160 AM WSKW. The program brought to you by your friends at Kennebec Electric and Lighting. Visit KennebecElectric.com to learn more. That's KennebecElectric.com to learn more. I realized earlier that I did not give you my contact information. So if you want to email me, good, bad, or indifferent, this is my usual spiel. Okay. For my national radio program, I'm fond of saying I'm your host, Keith Hansen, the unapologetic contrarian conservative, never apologizing for my toxic white masculinity, never apologizing for my Christian faith, heavily armed as always. And then, of course, my contact information. So email, good, bad, or indifferent, as it's always been, keithontheair@gmail.com. That's keithontheair@gmail.com. As I'm going to be filling in for Mike for the remainder of the week. If there's something that you would like to hear me opine on, or if there's something that you would like to have addressed on air, certainly send me that email, good, bad, or indifferent. If you hate the show and you think that I'm this bloviating idiot, well, email me. You never know. I may just massage your email on air. It's entirely possible, but keep those emails coming in. I certainly do appreciate reading those each and every day. You can follow me on Parler. I'm there at Real Keith Hansen. That's at Real Keith Hansen on Parler. On Gab and Rumble, Real Keith Hansen. And then I got to be honest, I'm still attached to Facebook, but I spend more time in Facebook jail than I do actually roaming around on Facebook. I'm currently under yet another 27-day ban on Facebook. Evidently, the fact checkers don't like some of the stuff that I put up on there. But anyway, it's facebook.com/Keith on the air. That's facebook.com/Keith on the air. I would be remiss if I didn't address a couple of things here that, one was covered on the national news. The other one was covered on the local news. By the way, coming up at 8:30, right after the bottom of the hour break, we're going to be checking in with Ted Harvey. Ted is a former Colorado state senator. He's also the chairman of a super PAC. It's an anti-Biden super PAC called Committee to Defeat the President. It started out as one of the largest pro-Trump super PACs, which was known as Committee to Defend the President. And it changed its name after the 2020 election. Always a good conversation with Ted Harvey. That'll be coming up right after the 8:30 news, sports, and weather break. But first of all, this 80-year-old Asian man that was attacked by a group of teenagers. That's the first thing. The second one is the local story about this idiot, Sean Arnold, that got arrested at a truck stop trying to pick up a 15-year-old boy, or somebody that he thought was a 15-year-old boy, for sex. I don't even know where to begin with the stupidity of these people. If you are it's a double-edged sword when it comes to the internet, because now more and more of these people are being identified and they're being introduced into the system. That's a good thing. The question that I have is, how many kids who are running free on the internet are being propositioned, contacted, exposed to, in any way, shape, or form, the grooming habits, the grooming techniques of child predators? Now, I applaud these groups that go out and try to conduct these stings. But I got to be honest with you. Ultimately, the responsibility comes down to, you're not going to like this. Some of you aren't going to like this. Proper parenting. The 80-year-old Asian man that was attacked by a group of teenagers. If you recall, it was, I think it was Ohio. I want to say it was Ohio recently, a couple of weeks ago. There was a 14-year-old kid that was fatally shot by police. He was running around with a very realistic-looking airsoft pistol at 2 o'clock in the morning. And the police come out and, of course, they respond as they're supposed to do. And, here's this kid, 13, 14, whatever he is, whether he's 12 or whether he was 15, doesn't matter. What matters is the central theme of what's happening. At 12 or 13 or 14 years old, you're not as smart as you think you are. You don't have a lot of life experience. And you're probably acting in a very emotional manner. I know it's probably going to come as a shock to many of you, but children tend to act very emotionally. They don't think about consequences. They don't weigh through. We talked earlier about the dedicated framework of analysis, having those critical thinking skills. Well, I can tell you that kids, especially, there's some adults that never transition into this phase. It's emotional and intellectual immaturity. But especially with kids, they don't critically think. They just do. They just reacted. And you're not weighing the consequences of your actions when you're a kid. So here's a kid who's out 2 o'clock in the morning running around with an airsoft gun, an airsoft pistol, shoved into his waistband. He's in an area where I guess evidently shots are fired. Police come. He has an interaction with the police, and they fatally shoot him. What's the first question that comes to mind? Do we blame the police? Why would we blame the police for that? Think about this for just a moment. I get a number of borings regarding police officers that are killed in the line of duty. I have some affiliation with officer.com. Frank Borelli, who's the executive editor there, he's been a regular on a couple of my radio programs. And they put out on a regular basis the end of watch reports. Police officers that are killed in the line of duty, doing their jobs. And it's heartbreaking to read some of these stories. There's not a week that goes by that there aren't 2 or 3 end of watch reports that come out. Police officer goes to the scene of a domestic violence call, for instance, and fatally shot. There were actually 4 reports that came out, 4 end of watch reports that came out over the past, just within the past 48 hours. There have been 4. Can we blame the police for this? Now we're gonna take a different approach to what we opened the program up talking about. I'm also getting word too that I don't know if Ted is going to be able to make it onto the program here. Not Ted Harvey. He may have a scheduling conflict, so we may have to just roll through this, which is okay. We can certainly do that. I got plenty to talk about, kids. Can we blame the police for this? No, I don't think it's appropriate to blame the police. You know who I blame? I blame the parents. What the hell is your 14-year-old kid doing running around on the streets at 2 o'clock in the morning with an airsoft gun? And then the mother, of course, has the audacity to come out and blame it. Why you shot my boy? Where's the responsibility? Where's the parenting? See, when we talk about politicians that are exploiting, and they love to exploit stupid people. They also love to exploit vulnerable people as well, too. Politicians do it, and you've heard the expression, the race pimps. When we talk about race pimps, we're talking about people like Al Sharpton, the Reverend Jesse Jackson. Love that guy. Oh, he's a stellar performer. Benjamin Crump, Ben Swan. You know who Ben Swan is? He's based out of Massachusetts. Degenerate race pimp. And I think that, the big issue here is that people don't want to be held accountable. I mean, it is certainly a sign of emotional immaturity. Look at the way a child behaves. I don't want to be held accountable. I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it, and to hell with everybody else. But if there are negative consequences from my actions, well, I don't want to be held responsible or accountable for those. And we see what we're seeing right now. You have people who go in and, in essence, give a pass to this. They pander. It's not your fault. Remember when we talked about this in the context of systemic racism? You're unable to enjoy the American dream because, you live in poverty. And there's people out there, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I can't enjoy the American dream because I'm poor. Well, poverty is not the cause of your inability to enjoy the American dream. Poverty is the result of bad choices that you've made. But of course, when something like the Rodney King case breaks out, or the Trayvon Martin case breaks out, or the George Floyd case breaks out, or the Michael Brown case breaks out, there's no shortage of these people who are willing to, at a moment's notice, swoop into these municipalities, these cities, these towns, and suddenly now start absolving people of responsibility. More to the point, they want to create the victims so they can pander to those victims while necessarily identifying the oppressor, the boogeyman, the perpetrator. And we see this over and over and over again. Now, how does this tie in with the 15-year-old kid, or not necessarily the 15-year-old kid, but the guy, Sean Arnold, who was arrested at a truck stop for trying to sexually solicit what he believed was a 15-year-old boy? And how does it tie in with this case of the 80-year-old Asian man being attacked? It has to do with good parenting, folks. If you're a parent and your child has access to the internet, be a parent. Parent. Pay attention to what your kids are doing. It is your job to parent, not to be a friend to these kids. That's the problem with far too many parents today. They want to be liked by their children. I would much rather, I don't have children. I would much rather be respected by my children, if I had children, in their older adulthood lives for having raised them properly than to be popular in the mind of a 12-year-old. I don't give a rat's pajamas what a 12-year-old thinks of me. You like me, you don't like me, don't care. Your opinion means nothing. You don't have the education, the life experience, the knowledge to even have an opinion on anything. And by the way, enjoy being a child, because you'll miss those days when adulthood sets in. Parent. Be a parent. Being a parent means that you're paying attention to what your children are doing, the websites that your children are going to, using parent filters, using content filters to ensure that your kids are staying off of sites that they shouldn't be, asking questions. For those of you that have children, do you sit down at the dinner table and eat as a family? Or is it just every man, every woman, every child for him or herself? Have conversations. Engage your children in conversation. This is a new audience that I'm addressing right now, so many of you don't know what my background is, but I have spent a significant portion of my professional career running juvenile detention facilities, specifically juvenile boot camp programs. Yeah, those programs. Sir, yes, sir. Sir, no, sir. Get down on your face and do push-ups until I'm tired of watching you do push-ups. Oh, those places are evil in the minds of progressives because they're mean. Well, the reason why progressives hate them is because they produce results, significantly reduced rates of recidivism. So I don't have children, biological children of my own, but at various stages throughout my professional life, I have had 36 children. We're going to get into parenting, proper parenting, right after this commercial break. We'll be right back. You're listening to The Mike Violette Show.
Sweet treats that'll bring back wonderful memories every time you share them. Incense and Peppermints has candy that's fun for the whole family, like Jelly Bellies, Smarties, Turkish Taffy, Mellow Cups, Laffy Taffy, and Necco wafers. And candy that'll take you on a trip down memory lane, like old-fashioned penny candies, root beer barrels, atomic fireballs, Mary Jane's Bit of Honey, and Jawbreakers. They even carry main favorites like Moose Poop and Saltwater Taffy. Incense and Peppermints.
What's important here at Moody's is we have a lot of opportunity for upward mobility. Moody's definitely helped me through. They sent me to school. I got my degree in business. I had the demeanor and I had the willpower and the want.
Our trade is constantly changing and there's always new challenges that arise.
I definitely feel like an owner. It's very exciting.
When you like what you do, you like your job, you like the people you work with, what else could you ask for?
Bring your skills to Moody's and build a long-term future with us.
Spring is the time of renewal for both you and your home. So brighten your day and your surroundings with great items from Town Line Antiques. Do you love classic decor? You'll find furniture, artwork, glassware, signs, and hundreds more pieces around every corner. Their classic colors and styles will have you thinking spring and feeling invigorated every time you see them. Or maybe you enjoy collecting books, comics, coins, sports memorabilia, watches, or classic electronics. Town Line Antiques has rare items that you won't find anywhere else. Town Line is also showcasing a new display of art glass that's absolutely dazzling. Each piece is one of a kind, with its own unique flair of colors and form. You simply have to see them to appreciate their beauty. And for everyone who loves to bring items back to life, they're now carrying high-quality fusion mineral paints that give you beautiful color and a durable, long-lasting finish. Town Line Antiques, open Tuesday through Sunday from 10 to 5. Route 201, right on the Winslow-Vassalboro Town Line.
Mike Violette here, and if you know me, you know I love my coffee, you know I love my ice cream. I also love my Wendy's, and right now Wendy's is taking care of me and, more importantly, you on both counts, because at Wendy's now, you can get a small signature cold brew iced coffee or a Frosty-Chino with real Frosty creamer for just $1 for a limited time. The Wendy's cold brew iced coffee, it's slow steeped to be extra rich and super smooth, then served over ice to be extra refreshing and invigorating. Frosty-Chino at 8 a.m.? You bet, only $1. Pair the cold brew iced coffee or the Frosty-Chino with a breakfast Baconator. You've got the perfect morning. The Wendy's Frosty-Chino is the signature cold brew coffee swirled with Wendy's legendary vanilla or my favorite chocolate Frosty creamer and served over ice. It's cool, it's creamy, it's delicious, and it comes in 2 sizes, small and large. You can get a small Wendy's Frosty-Chino or small cold brew coffee for just $1 all day long. Choose wisely, choose Wendy's. Limited time only. Price and participation may vary.
Welcome back to the Mike Violette Show. I'm Keith Hansen, filling in for Mike Violette on Legacy 1160 AM WSKW, brought to you by Kennebec Electric and Lighting. You can visit, let's see, my board's going crazy here. You can visit KennebecElectric.com to learn more. That's KennebecElectric.com to learn more. Powered by the Bailey family of Dunkins, the official coffee of Legacy 1160 AM WSKW. Shaping up not too bad out there right now. Currently, outside the studios in Augusta, we got 53 degrees under mostly sunny skies as of right now. It looks like that cloud cover is officially clearing out. 50 degrees fair skies in Mercer, 50 degrees sunny skies in Fairfield and Smithfield, Maine. You've got 49 degrees currently. We're right around that temperature here in Grantham, New Hampshire. So not too bad. But again, Thursday and Friday, those are going to be definitely the beach days. If you have a chance to get out and enjoy it, please get out and enjoy it. You can tell them that I gave you permission to take a hooky day. Go to the beach. Take a beach day. Take a mental sanity day. Get out, enjoy it, enjoy some fresh air. And for the love of God, take the damn mask off when you're on the beach. What the hell is wrong with you people? Get out, fresh air. No, I can't have that. Got to wear a face diaper. All right. That's a conversation for a different day. Responsible parenting. This is where we are. And Ted Harvey is, unfortunately, he is going to have to cancel on us today. We'll try to get him back on at a future point in time here. Ted, former Colorado State Senator, and again, he is currently the chairman of the Committee to Defeat the President. It was formerly known as the Committee to Defend the President, was a pro-Trump super PAC and is now an anti-Biden super PAC as well. Always a great conversation with Ted. Unfortunately, he's not going to be able to join us, but we will get him back on for you, hopefully before the end of the week. Responsible parenting. This is something that, again, people just, I don't know, it just chaps asses when we get into this conversation. Got to be honest. As I had mentioned, I don't have biological children. It's a choice that I made. I've spent a lot of time working outside of the United States with something that really wasn't, it wasn't something that was conducive for the lifestyle that I had at the point in time. So I made, here we go, talking about responsible choices. I made responsible choices to not bring children into this world because I wasn't ready. I wasn't prepared. So I took proactive steps. That's called personal responsibility. And it's a great thing. But I did have at a number of occasions, whether it was 28 or whether it was 36, depending, I had 36 kids, convicted juvenile felons, who me and my staff were trying to teach these kids necessary life skills because their parents had failed to teach them those skills. Oftentimes, the parents were non-existent, and most of the time it was typically dad who was gone. Dad was dead, in jail. Who the hell knows? Most of these kids didn't know who bio dad was. And it was a sad state of affairs. It is your job as a parent to raise children with an understanding of respect for authority. If your children tell their teachers to F off, that is a failure of you as a parent. If your children are getting shot by the police at 2 o'clock in the morning for running around on the streets with an airsoft gun jammed into their waistbands, that is not an indictment of law enforcement. It is an indictment of you, not only as a parent, but as a human being. What the hell is wrong with you? But we can't talk like this anymore. That's offensive. Somebody's going to get butt hurt because, God forbid, some conservative blowhard dares to point the finger of blame where it needs to be pointed. I would not want to be a public educator today. I'm sorry, did I say public educator? I meant a government-funded, an indoctrination center employee. I would not want to work in a government-run, government-funded school. I wouldn't want to have to deal with the behavioral issues. I don't know how teachers teach in these environments today. Can't hold a child accountable. Hold a child accountable. You're going to have a parent who's going to come in and yell and scream at you. And then you're going to get fired because, you dared to actually demand that the child behave in a socially acceptable fashion. But that's okay, because, if your child's a behavioral issue, you don't have to worry about it. We're just going to put your kid through the restorative justice program. We're going to put them through a restorative justice model, which doesn't actually address the issue. It simply panders. A lot of pandering. You're going to notice that's a central theme of leftist ideology as well, too. Pander and pass. Pander to and give a pass to. Make excuses for. Because remember, you're the victim. So your behavior can be excused. You're the victim. So we're going to give you a pass. You're the victim, so we can't possibly hold you accountable. We're going to go after the person that caused you to be the way that you are. That's the mindset today. Not healthy. The teenagers that are beating up on this 80-year-old man, where are the parents? There used to be a concept of holding parents accountable for the actions of their children. As a kid, I never really understood that. Today, more and more and more, I do. Especially when we look at the concept of proximal cause. If you fail to raise your children properly and they go out as children and they violate somebody else's rights, whether it's their health, whether it's their property, whatever, you should be held accountable. Now, in the case of the Sean Arnold guy, I think it's more to the point. It's not even in terms of proactive raising children with values. It's supervising and monitoring what your children do. We're going to continue the conversation when the Mike Violette Show continues. 8:29 on Legacy AM 1160 WSKW. News, sports, and weather coming up right now, folks. Don't go away.
Not to hoard gasoline. This as a growing number of gas stations across the Southeast are running dry after a surge in panic buying spurred by the cyber attack on a major fuel pipeline. ABC's Andrew Dimberg.
Gas stations in at least 7 states are reporting shortages from Florida to Virginia, and supply issues appear to be creeping north. According to Bloomberg, distributors say they're now getting gas on a ration basis in Linden, New Jersey, where the 5,500-mile critical pipeline ends. A cyber attack 5 days ago forced its operator, Colonial Pipeline to shut down the pipeline, causing shortages and sending prices climbing.
The Colonial Pipeline is expected to restart most of its operations by the end of the week. President Biden will meet with congressional leadership at the White House today to discuss his trillion-dollar infrastructure plan. McConnell, McCarthy, Pelosi, and Schumer will attend. Republican Congressional Conference Chair Liz Cheney could be voted out of her position today. This is ABC News.
This is your HelloFresh mini break. There will be no grocery store crowds today or figuring out what's in the fridge. You already chose from over 25 chef-created recipes this week. There will be a HelloFresh box on your doorstep filled with fresh, pre-portioned ingredients that, in as little as 20 minutes, will become restaurant-quality meals. And giving yourself a break is back on the table.
Go to HelloFresh.com/Sky12 and use code Sky12 to get 12 free meals, including free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/Sky12, code Sky12.
Jay Farner here, CEO of Rocket Mortgage and Rocket Companies. Last year, we saw historically low mortgage interest rates. What you may not know is that interest rates are already starting to increase, and it's likely that trend is only going to continue. Our team of experts is standing by to help you save before rates go up. Don't look back and wish that you had taken action. Call 833-8ROCKET or visit rocketmortgage.com.
Rocket. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender licensed in all 50 states and MLSConsumerAccess.org number 3030.
I'm CBS 13's Jeff Peterson on Legacy 1160 WSKW. A trucker from Auburn is accused of trying to lure a 15-year-old boy for sex. Police say 45-year-old Sean Arnold thought he was talking to a teen about meeting up in Connecticut, but it was actually an activist group posting as a teen online. According to investigators, the group confronted Arnold at a truck stop and waited for officers to arrive. He's now facing several charges, including sexual assault. Presidents of Bates, Bowdoin, and Colby colleges wrote a joint letter to the Maine legislature expressing support for transgender student athletes. The letter says in part, quote, "We should not exclude transgender girls from these important experiences, force them to choose between being themselves and participating in sports." First grade students at Oakland are growing their home libraries thanks to one student teacher from Thomas College. Alisa Paquette, an education student, says some kids have less access to books during the pandemic and aren't reading at the level where they should be. So the student teacher took matters into her own hands and raised money to buy 10 books for every first grade student at Atwood Primary School. The home library project will continue next year, and 10 more books will be provided to each first grader at the school. Red Sox lose to the A's 3-2. Same two teams tonight at 7:10. In hockey, the Bruins fall to the Capitals 2-1, and the Celtics lose to the Heat. Final score 129-121. I'm CBS 13's Jeff Peterson with a news update on Legacy 1160 WSKW.
At Fenway, Oakland A's 3, Red Sox 2. Red Sox starter Nathan Eovaldi strong through 6. Then the bullpen blew it. It was a Washington Capitals 2, the Bruins 1. Very good game featuring minor leaguers and bench players. Bruce Cassidy.
Other guys stepped right in and did a good job. That played with some conviction, attacked. Game went along, got more comfortable. They had the puck a little more, got to play with it. So some good things.
Bruin coach Bruce Cassidy. Bruins Capitals. First playoff game Saturday. Celtics, hard to watch. Miami 129, Celtics 121. Brad Stevens heading for the NBA's play-in tournament for the Also-Rans.
Talked about it even in the locker room. We had so many unsolid possessions, and then we switched out of convenience and not necessity. It really hurt us. And as a result, later in the game, there's more indecision.
Celtic coach Brad Stevens. Follow me on Twitter at Tom Cuddy Sports.
I'm CBS 13 meteorologist Lexi O'Connor. Partly to mostly sunny this morning with a slight chance for a shower. We'll see more clouds developing this afternoon and evening with scattered showers, highs in the low 60s. Partly to mostly sunny for tomorrow and Friday. Mid to upper 60s, near 70 degrees inland on Friday. Staying warm and partly sunny with the chance for showers this weekend.
Ooh, we're getting the extended remix of the great Billy Ocean, Caribbean Queen. Welcome back to the Mike Violette Show. Keith Hansen filling in for Mike Violette on this Wednesday morning. You're listening to A Legacy 1160 AM WSKW, brought to you by Kennebec Electric and Lighting. You can visit more or learn more by visiting KennebeCelectric.com. The Mike Violette Show, powered by the Bailey family of Duncans, the official coffee of Legacy 1160. Got a nice day shaping up. As the sun comes up, so too does the temperature. 53 degrees currently in Augusta. Got 50 degrees in Canaan, 51 degrees in Smithfield, 51 degrees, sunny skies in Skowhegan. And National Weather Service still calling for that mixture of sun and clouds today with increasing chances of showers this afternoon, but the really beautiful weather is going to be coming in on Thursday and Friday. Overnight lows tonight of around 40 degrees, clouds giving way to mainly clear skies, and then tomorrow, few high clouds, mainly sunny, and again, temperatures in the mid to upper 60s, and then touching into the 70s on Friday. So, again, spectacular weather coming up. CBS 13 meteorologist Lexi O'Connor just gave you the forecast, and I think we're going to wind up doing another forecast. Still learning the clock here at WSKW, but I think there should be another weather break coming up certainly at the top of the hour. In any event, we'll be bringing you the good news about the forecast tomorrow as well, too. I will be here Thursday, and I believe I will be here Friday as well, too. It's a privilege to fill in for Mike, and it is a privilege to have all of you along with me as I start my day, and certainly a privilege to be with you as you start yours. And different perspectives, I know. Mike is he's a great orator. He's got some great ideas, some great concepts. There's a lot of congruency and continuity between what he talks about and what I talk about, certainly. And I think, the vast majority of this, we'll get back into the parenting here in just a second, but I would be remiss if I didn't bring this up. We talk about the differences between conservatives and liberals and progressives, and we are tribalistic people. We tend to like people that are in our tribes, and people who are not a part of our tribe, well, we tend to want to push them away. Sports, perfect example. Okay, if you're in New England, you're in New England Patriots territory. So if you happen to be a New York Giants fan, for instance, well, you're not a part of the tribe. You're probably going to get shunned. For the same reason that in New Hampshire, and I'm assuming it's probably the same way in Massachusetts, you're driving down the highways and you see those Massachusetts license plates. I know in New Hampshire, we see Massachusetts license plates and we're like, man, we wish we had border controls. We wish we had a strong southern border, referring to the border of Massachusetts and New Hampshire. Stay out, please. Okay. Now, again, we don't like Mass people. I'm assuming Mainers don't like Maine and New Hampshire. We get along fine. We have no problem. We see a Maine plate and we're like, oh, okay. Well, maniacs. Hey, you guys have good lobsters and your beaches are great. We like you. But when you look at the Mass people, it tends to be a little bit different. We just love to hate Mass people. I don't know who Massachusetts people. Well, Massachusetts people hate Connecticut people. That's basically it. And Connecticut people, they're like, well, we don't like the New Yorkers, and New Yorkers don't like anybody. I mean, it's just how it is. But it's all based on this concept of tribalism. Well, these people are of a different tribe than we are, so we can't associate with them. I mean, we like to say that we don't like Mass people, but here's the thing: if you're sitting at a restaurant, and you have a conversation with somebody, or if you're in line at a store, or whatever the case may be, you strike up a conversation with, oh, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Boston. Whatever. Oh, really? Hey, geez, I grew up on the Cape. That kind of thing. You're not like, oh, you're from Massachusetts? Well, I can't have anything to do with you. It's in your mind. It's contrived. We're tribalistic. We're very, very tribalistic in nature. So we like to compartmentalize ourselves. We like to put ourselves in these different categories. And that makes sense. It's just how we organize things. We look for patterns. We look for structure. That's how most people operate. And they like to put people in categories. And we label people. No question about that. And so we look at, Democrats, we look at progressives, we look at, oh, you're a progressive, or you're a socialist, or you're a capitalist, or you're, whatever. All these isms, all these names that we associate with. I have a very simple litmus test that I ask, because I've talked to people who are, I'm a liberal, or I'm a Democrat. Okay, well, are you really? Do you believe that the southern border should be wide open for anybody who wants to come across, or do you believe that there should be a process by which people are screened and admitted into this country via an organized process, aka the rule of law? Most people are going to say, well, I think that there should be a process. There should be rule. Okay, good. All right, check that one off. Do you believe that people should be held accountable for their actions, or do you think people should just be able to do whatever it is that they want to do, and then if the consequences are bad, they should be given a pass, and somebody else should be blamed for those actions? I think what most people are going to say is, well, no, I think people should practice personal responsibility, and they should be held accountable for their actions. Okay, great. Let's check that one off. Do you believe that you have the right to protect yourself should you be able to protect yourself against a violent action being perpetrated against you by somebody else with malevolent intent? I think most people are going to say, and most people do indicate, that they believe that they have a right to defend themselves. Okay, well, let's check that one off. Do you believe that you should keep more or less of what you earn and make and have? That's where it becomes incredibly personal. Well, I work hard for my money. I want to keep most of my money. I don't want government just reaching in my pocket and helping themselves to whatever I have. Okay, great. Let's check that one off. Do you believe that government should be expanded so that way there's more control over your life by a government entity? Or should you be permitted to make your own decisions and held accountable? There's a social contract there. I want the right to make my own decisions, but I also have to agree to be held accountable if I make wrong decisions. Well, that seems perfectly reasonable to me. Okay, great. Check that one off. Do you believe that government, like you, should spend within its means? Or should government have a credit card with no credit limit whatsoever? Just whatever you want to buy, just throw it on the credit card and let that debt get higher and higher and higher. No, government should spend within its means. Okay. Congratulations. You're a conservative. You are. You're a conservative. That's what you are. You know what? We don't have to. We're not even going to put you in that category. We're just going to say this: you're a rationally thinking, common sense American. Congratulations. And when you really sit down and look at the vast majority of people, they're in line. They know what's right. They know what's wrong. They have their ethical foundation. They have their moral compass. Most of the time, people's moral compasses are pointing in the right direction. Their ethical foundation is solid. They understand what integrity is. Love it when I have a conversation with somebody and I ask, what is integrity? Well, I don't know. Well, then you probably don't have any. Integrity is doing the right thing even if there's nobody there to see you do it. One of the things that I've said so many times on my media, have the courage to be disliked. I'll be honest with you, I don't care who likes me and who doesn't. When I die and I'm standing in front of my Creator and I'm being judged for what I did during my lifetime, one of the questions, most assuredly, that is not going to come up is, how many people liked you? I don't care. Don't like me? Don't like me. Doesn't bother me at all. I can look at myself in the mirror and say, you're a man of honor. You're a man of integrity. You stand for something. Here in New Hampshire, our Governor Christopher T. Sununu, His Royal Highness, called me divisive. I'm divisive. I ran for the New Hampshire Republican Party chair position. Governor Sununu came out and endorsed my opponent, calling me divisive. I guess evidently he thought that was going to be something that was going to hurt me. I was going to go home and like cry myself to sleep on my, big Betsy DeVos pillow. No, not quite. In fact, more to the point, it was the greatest honor that Governor Christopher T. Sununu could have possibly bestowed upon me. He endorsed my character. He endorsed my integrity. That's what's important to me. Not how many people think I'm a great guy. I don't care. I don't care. I have the courage to be disliked. I would rather be disliked for all the right reasons than to be loved and adored by the masses for one single wrong one. That takes intellectual maturity. That takes emotional maturity. That takes courage. Most people know what's right. Most people know what's wrong. Most people have that moral compass, again, that ethical foundation. They understand what honor and integrity is, and they try. They really do try to live their life to the best that they possibly can, but they fall under I don't want to say the trappings, but they fall under the gravitational pull of tribalism. Growing up in Massachusetts, I know so many people who, I'm a Democrat. Why are you a Democrat? And I give them that little litmus test, and they pass it. And I'm like, well, basically, you're a conservative. Well, I don't know. I'm a Democrat. Well, why? Well, because and when you really get down to it, it's because their father was a Democrat, grandpa was a Democrat, great-grandfather was a Democrat, going all the way back. They were all Democrats. I couldn't possibly be anything but, because this is the family legacy. So it's legacy, it's heritage, and it's tribalism. They get hung up on the labels. Always makes for an interesting Thanksgiving. If you have one of those families that, eventually the conversation devolves into, once people have kind of reached their limits of turkey, tryptophan, and beer or wine or whatever they happen to be serving, and then the conversation digresses into politics, it always gets interesting. It's also interesting, too. I can't go to either a family event, and I certainly can't go to any events with friends without having people, because they know what I do. So they want to have a conversation with me. Generally, it's not a debate. I generally find people don't want to debate me on things. If they do, it doesn't generally end well for them. They usually digress into an emotional mess and then, just stomp off. It's typically how it is. But the point being is that I think people understand what's right and what's wrong, and they want to do the right thing. And we get hung up on these titles: Democrat, Republican, progressive, conservative, everything else like that. Most people, again, I believe, understand what's right. They strive to do the right thing. What's important to understand as well is that the left in this country, that hates this country, they're extremely vocal and they're extremely loud, but they're not in the majority. Despite the conclusions that you may arrive at, listening to them and watching them, they're not the majority in this country. A very small vocal majority works tirelessly to try to silence, or I misspoke. A very, very small minority works tirelessly to silence a very quiet majority. We don't want conflict. The average American doesn't want conflict. They don't want stress. They don't want strife. They want to have a peaceful existence. They work towards that. I've often said that, especially in the terms of on the battlefield of politics, on the battlefield of social issues, and it's absolutely a battlefield today, Republicans, conservatives, Christians, whatever you want to call them, we're constrained by our own morality. We're constrained by a healthy respect for law and order. We have to be nice. The reason why the left is so powerful and so vocal while still being in the minority is because we have capitulated. We want to be nice. We want to be liked. We don't want to upset the apple cart. Oh, we don't want to stoop to their level. How many times have you heard that? Well, I don't want to go down to their level. If you take anything away from today's show, I want you to think about this. What you accept, you can expect. We talk about children. We talk about proper parenting. Now, watch what I'm going to do here. I'm going to tie all this in. Proper parenting involves creating situations that serve as disincentivizing factors. We have to create incentives for children to do the right thing and simultaneously disincentivize behavior that we don't want to see occurring. In essence, what we have to do is create a cost. That's part of the decision-making process. What is the cost? What is the benefits? Cost-benefit analysis. We do it all the time. Even if you don't realize you're doing it, you're doing it. What is the cost? What is the benefit? What is the outcome? Do the ends justify the means? Do I want to engage in this behavior? We as conservatives, we as Americans, we as patriots, we as whatever the case may be, we don't create disincentivizing factors for people on the left. We just simply accept it. Remember earlier in the program talking about tolerance versus acceptance. Not only do we tolerate it, but we also accept it. That's dangerous. We're going to continue this conversation here right after this very, very quick commercial break. You are listening to the Mike Violette Show. I'm Keith Hansen, filling in for Mike Violette on Legacy 1160 AM WSKW. And really quickly, 51 degrees, sunny skies in Skowhegan, 51 degrees in Norwich Walk, fair skies, and in Augusta, bright sunny skies and 51 degrees.
And you'll see hardworking people doing amazing things. People like nurses and respiratory therapists who keep us healthy, teachers and mental health specialists who care for our loved ones. And let's not forget the builders, electricians, and plumbers who help make sure our homes are safe and comfortable. What you might not know is that many of these men and women got their start right here, close to home, at Kennebec Valley Community College. Hi, I'm Teresa Smith, Director of Advising. And for more than 50 years, KVCC has expanded the programs we offer in order to meet the changing needs of Maine's workforce. Our adaptability truly is our strength, and we want you to know that no matter what changes the future brings, KVCC will be here, providing affordable, high-quality education to the people of Central Maine. With summer classes beginning on May 10th, there's no need to wait. You can apply today. High school juniors and seniors may even qualify for a free class this summer. To learn more, visit us online at kvcc.me.edu, or better yet, call us at 453-5822. That's 453-KVCC.
I know you've heard the old adage, buy low and then sell high. Well, with real estate prices rising in the market every day, if you've been thinking of selling your home, now is the time to list your property with Pouliot Real Estate to capitalize on it. While the market may be growing, Matt and the team at Pouliot Real Estate are never too busy to help. In fact, before you go and pay for an appraisal to find the value of your home, Pouliot Real Estate will happily give you an estimate for free. Yeah, I said free. Low interest rates have created an active buying market, which is great for sellers. And there are lots of people selling their homes for a number of reasons. They're empty nesters looking to cash in on the equity that they've built, folks looking to downsize their home to increase their cash, and growing families that simply need something bigger. There's absolutely no obligation, so why not strike while the iron is hot? Contact Pouliot Real Estate for a free home valuation at PouliotRealEstate.com. That's PouliotRealEstate.com. And when you see Matt Pouliot, you tell him Mike Violette sent you.
Hey folks, who's thinking about spring? Hi, this is Bernie from Trailside Performance. If you're taking on those tough chores around your property, come check out the #1 selling farm tractor in the world, Mahindra. Not only are Mahindra tractors tough, but they come with a 7-year warranty to back it up. With Mahindra, there's no regeneration, no diesel particulate filter, and no hassle. I personally invite you to our Winslow or Newport location to learn more about Mahindra and their awesome discounts and finance programs. At Trailside Performance, we service what we sell. And we
WSKW, Legacy 1160.
.52 on Legacy 1160 AM WSKW, the Mike Violette Show. Keith Hansen filling in for the great Mike Violette on this shaping up to be pretty decent Wednesday, the 12th day of May 2021. All right, coming up here in just a little bit, going to have news, top of the hour news, local news, and then John James, who I've had the privilege of getting to know here over the past couple of weeks and months, certainly. John does a great job. And really, really enjoy listening to his program. Hopefully you do too. He'll be coming up here at 9 o'clock, from 9 o'clock until the 12 noon hour as well. I will be back tomorrow morning again at 6 a.m. and I believe again on Friday. I don't know if Mike is coming back on Friday or not. Still waiting to find out. But in any event, look forward to joining you tomorrow as well. Going to have some great conversations. Got Michael Friedson, who's going to be coming on tomorrow. He broadcasts live from Jerusalem. He and his wife, Felice Friedson, are the proprietors of a news outlet over there called The Media Line. And if you ever pay attention to townhall.com, if you ever hear townhall.com's top of the hour news, depending on where you happen to be, if you're listening to another station and you hear townhall.com, you will hear Felice Friedson from The Media Line giving reports from the Middle East. They're embedded in Jerusalem. Tomorrow morning at 7:30, Michael Friedson will be joining us live from Jerusalem. We're going to be talking about the unprecedented attacks going on right now as anti-tank missiles are raining down on the Gaza border. This is an update from Haaretz.com. Teen father killed in the city of Lod as central Israel comes under a Gaza rocket attack. 43 Gazans, including 13 children, reportedly killed. Israeli Arab lawmaker Mansour Abbas calls to end violent protests in central Israel. 850 Gaza rockets have been counted to date since the beginning of the escalation. President Trump coming out actually and saying, it's unprecedented what is happening right now in the Middle East, especially given the fact that we're 120 days or something into Biden's presidency. This is a situation where really peace in the Middle East looked like it was on the cusp of being achieved. I mean, it's a potentially, I shouldn't say potentially, it is a volatile situation over there. It's always potentially volatile. It always had the potentiality of escalating, but under the Trump administration, people didn't mess around with Israel because they knew if you mess around with Israel, Big Brother is going to be there. One of the interesting conversations I did have with Michael Friedson was exactly what the sentiment was, knowing that they were about to go into 4 years of a Biden administration. We'll talk more about that with Michael Friedson. He's going to join me live from Jerusalem. That'll be tomorrow morning at 7:30. Then we're also going to be talking guns in the 8 o'clock hour as well, too. Dan Roberts, who's a contributor to Ammo Land, he's a regular contributor to My Media as well. He'll be joining us on the Skype line. That'll be coming up at 8:30 tomorrow morning. All right, just getting back into this conversation, just a couple more minutes left here of the program, but talking about the language that is used. And that's been a central theme of what we have discussed today, going back to the opening portion, the systemic racism, talking about how words are manipulated. And again, when we look at the acceptance versus the tolerance, I think they're really one and the same. When you look at the Republican or conservative or Christian response to what the extremely vocal minority of the left puts out, because we don't want to lower ourselves to their standards. We don't want to lower ourselves to that point. It's beneath us to engage in those tactics. Again, just like with the kids, we have got to create disincentivizing factors. If we accept it, we have to expect more of it, and in increasing levels. Cancel culture, perfect example of this. We don't push back on cancel culture. Why not? Well, because, it's just the games that the left play. It is destructive. It is absolutely destructive. It destroys people's lives, but yet we don't push back on that. I don't advocate for violence. I will never advocate for violence. But I will tell you this. Push back. Push back. I don't wear a mask in public. I will not wear a mask in public. Period. End of story. My body, my choice. I will not occlude my airway for you or anybody else. And if you're afraid, stay home. Use Instacart. Call a friend to do your shopping for you. Stay out of the store. I have a right to walk into a store and breathe. You do not have a right to aggress or accost me in public because of a choice that I make. And you see people, they're afraid of these people, the mask Karens, the mask Nazis. I'm not the person you want to aggress in public over a mask. I will create a situation that will disincentivize further occurrences. I will react in such a way that will make you think twice about ever doing it to anybody else again. I'm not going to be physically violent, but if you've ever had a drill sergeant in your face giving you a dress down, you'll get a better understanding of what I'm talking about. You, along with everybody else in that store, will know you made a bad decision. We will disincentivize future occurrences of this behavior, or at least give you something to ponder while you're doing the cost-benefit analysis to do it to somebody else in the future. We've got to push back. It's the only way that we can do this, is to push back. The only way that we can survive is to push back, because we are giving them carte blanche to do what they want to do when they want to do it. Just like with children, if you don't want the behavior to occur, you have to disincentivize it. When it comes to the left, if you don't want the behavior to occur, you have to disincentivize it. You have to stand up against it. It is critical. It is necessary. And now more than ever, people need to figure out what they're made of. What is your moral makeup? What is your ethical makeup? It's important that you understand this. All right, I can't believe it. 3 hours have gone by already. It was a privilege to fill in for Mike Violette on this Wednesday morning. You are listening to the Mike Violette Show. I am Keith Hansen, filling in for Mike Violette on the Great Legacy 1160 AM WSKW. That is going to do it. We got news and I think some sports and some weather coming up here. I don't know exactly what's coming up after this, but in any event, I am signing off. The great John James will be jumping on at 9 a.m. after the top of the hour news. He'll be taking you up to the 12 o'clock hour. And I will be back tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. to do it all over again. Until then, folks, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Get out and enjoy it. Stay safe. And remember, civility does work. Please be nice to one another. Take care. Talk to you tomorrow morning at 6.
ABC News, I'm Alex Prochet. The Colonial Pipeline cyber attack has led 4 states to declare states of emergency. But Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm says hoarding is the main problem, not gas shortages. As for the ransomware strike, former Homeland Security Advisor Tom Bossert says the U.S. is behind.
We need